James, are we rolling? Okay, we're gonna start. We're good? Because we're 8 minutes over here. Are we good? All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the July 1st regular meeting of the Tiverton Planning Board. We will begin with roll, as we usually do here. Cheryl Valentine? Okay. Thank you for letting us know. Take two. Welcome to the July 1st regular meeting of the Tiverton Planning Board. We will begin with roll call. Cheryl Valentine?
Here.
Janice Gomes?
Present.
Richard Taylor?
Here.
Rosemary Eva?
Present.
V.A. Lopes?
Here.
Stu Hardy?
Present.
And I'm Bill Gerlach. I'm the chair. We are also joined by Todd Romano, our assistant solicitor and planning board counsel, Ashley Sweet, our interim administrative officer and consulting planner from Weston and Sampson, and Ed Rotella, our land use clerk. We have a rather full agenda this evening, so we are going to try to move through as expeditiously as possible and try to get to everything. Recognize that it is rather warm in here, so we'll do our best. So before we jump in, I just want to very quickly acknowledge that Stephen Clark, who was a member of the planning board, has tendered his resignation. It's actually he's tendered his resignation. His reasons are his own, but they were really good reasons. And so he's no longer with us, which means that we now have 2 open spots on the planning board. So this is my public service announcement. If anyone is ready and willing and able to step forth, please feel free to put an application in with the town. So, all right, let's move on. So, agenda item number 1, Street Legal LLC, buy-in through James Long, 796 Aquidneck Ave, Middletown, Rhode Island, as the owner applicant. It's a major land development master plan review. This is a public hearing for this particular item. It's a proposed 27,200 square foot, 2-story building for a car vault. Parking providing 79 spaces for the adjacent property, Plat 107, Lot 804, and use. This is located at 0 Progress Road, Plat 107, Lots 813 through 818, Industrial Zone, Plan Development Park, Floating Zone. Discussion and possible vote on a major land development master plan application. That's nice. So, wow, that is a great breeze blowing through here now. So with that, we'd like to invite the applicant to the podium. Do you want to? Yeah.
Thank you,
Actually,
Mr. Chairman.
sir, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Please.
Just want to make sure you can hear me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the Planning Board. For the record, Attorney Daniel Riley on behalf of applicant Street Legal LLC. We are here tonight seeking master plan approval for this project as just described, and we'll get into a few more details shortly. I'm joined by Chris Duhamel, who's our project engineer, as well as James Long, who is the owner and developer, the owner of Street Legal LLC. And we also will be joined shortly, I believe, by Melissa Hutchinson, who's the the architect of record on the project, in case the planning board had any questions about the building itself and the project in a more detailed sense. Just by way of introduction, as you indicated, Mr. Chairman, this project is a approximately 27,000 square foot car club to be built on approximately 15 acres immediately adjacent to Longplex. That is in the industrial park, specifically in the Planned Development Park Overlay District. This is designed to be a private club with approximately 100 members. storing in the range of 200 high-end automobiles. The club and its facilities, its ancillary facilities, would also be open by invitation or marketing for certain special events. And it would be expected that the parking facilities that are built alongside the street legal complex could be used as a part of some sort of parking arrangement along with Longplex pursuant to a lease agreement and likely an access easement which would be recorded. The project, the zoning itself was amended recently when the planning board advised the council, and the council agreed with the recommendation to create a new class of structure in the PDP. I believe it's referred to as a car vault. The council subsequently ratified that change to the zoning ordinance, and the car vault is a permitted use in the zoning code within the PDP. As you can imagine, the utility aspect of the building, storing vehicles, is a use that was anticipated in the PDP originally, but by bringing in more of a higher end clientele, finishes, inviting people into the building, having a food and beverage aspect, more of a hospitality aspect for members, it does change the use, and that is why we had asked the planning board to render an advisory opinion on that zoning change. With that said, we'll get into the details of the project brief, and I would invite Chris Duhamel to join me. I would ask that he be accepted as an expert, Mr. Chairman. I know he's appeared before the planning board many times before on various projects, and I would ask that be accepted unless there's an objection.
Any objection from the board? No?
Thank you.
Does he have to be sworn?
Yeah, just 1 minute though, Mr. Riley, because we need to clarify what we're doing this evening.
Sure.
And I briefly discussed this with you and Mr. Duhamel before the meeting. Your original application was for the car vault with accessory parking unconnected to that car vault, but connected to Longplex for 79 spaces. This last Friday, we received from you a revised plan adding 83 parking spaces and a driveway from the car vault down to those 2 parking areas. As I explained to you, those extra 83 spaces were not advertised. That drive down to the parking spaces was not advertised. We cannot proceed forward on that revised plan this evening. And it's not that we wouldn't necessarily agree with the extra parking, but we can't do that tonight. So your options are, and Ashley's going to correct me when I'm wrong, are to either proceed this evening on what was advertised and solely on what was advertised. We can continue and re-advertise the application for August to include the extra 83 spots for parking and the driveway, or whatever other iteration you may have between now and the date that we need to advertise by. Or I guess you can come back, we can proceed forward on tonight's application as was originally advertised, and you can ask for a major change to that master plan application, assuming it's granted this evening. But that would have to be done prior to preliminary plan submittal. Does that make sense?
I think I follow the third option. So you'd be allowing us to amend the plan prior to preliminary plan submission?
You would have to apply for a major plan application, which would be a hearing before this board, because it would be a major change.
So our request would be to move forward with obtaining master plan approval tonight. That plan that was circulated after the meeting was advertised reflected the feedback, some of the feedback we received in the TRC meeting. And so we wanted to supplement the materials for the board to consider how we were addressing in particular the parking aspect. That's what the intention was. I fully expect that the plan in several respects would change based on feedback from the board. And so I would expect that prior to preliminary plan submission, we would be amending the plan in some way, shape, or form. I don't know the extent to which it would be done in a major way, but foreseeing potential issues about the number of spaces, for example, and the connected whether or not the parking lots are connected. We wanted to show what it is we intended to do, fully expecting that that's going to be part of the preliminary plan submission anyways.
Yeah, I want to be clear. Changes that this board may attach or conditions that the board may attach to whatever it approves this evening, those changes would be accepted and would not require another hearing before the planning board as part of or prior to the preliminary plan application. But what I'm understanding is changes due to your own design desires, which would fall outside of the realm of changes requested by this board. Does that distinction make?
It does, it does.
Okay.
And what I would suggest is that we move forward and that we work with staff after the meeting to determine whether or not it would be most prudent to formally amend or request to amend the submission. And if that's the feedback we get from them, then that's how we would proceed. That would be the...
All right, so I want to be clear for the board that all you are considering this evening are the original plans that you received. The car vault with the separated parking space or parking area for 79 spaces, parking spaces. Do you understand that?
I do.
Okay.
Are we good?
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
No worries. Glad we could clarify that. So I would ask Mr. Duhamel to...
Can we swear in Mr. Duhamel, please?
Mr. Duhamel, right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give to this board in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and that this is your solemn affirmation?
I do.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry. Mr. Duhamel, could you please state your name, professional affiliation, and role in the project, please?
Yes, my name is Chris Duhamel. I'm a professional engineer and land surveyor in Rhode Island. I've been practicing at DePrete Engineering for 38 years. I've been in front of the planning board in Tiverton many times.
And can you briefly describe this proposed project, including the type of development and the building itself?
Certainly. What's presented tonight is a master plan, a conceptual plan of a industrial use, a car vault as characterized by the town council within a PDP zone. The lot is, if I could change this.
Can you help, James? Just a minute, Chris. I'll help you. There you go.
This shows the subject lot that is, or lots I should add, that are to be combined in an administrative subdivision. There are assessors lots 107, lots 813 to 818 in an unimproved right-of-way. There's a total area of 15.71 acres. There's an easement that is located near against an electric easement, 150 foot in width, that is shaded in red on the subject plan. There's a wetland and wetland buffer. It's about 7.23 acres that is located at the north end of the parcel. There's also an easement for the Tiverton Recycling Center, a lease area that's fronting on Progress Road of 180 by 150 feet, 27,000 square foot in size. The site to the west is abutted by the Longplex Sports Complex, and that'll come into play when you look at the site design. The proposed building of a car vault or car storage is 27,200 square foot building. It's 170 by 160 foot rectangular in shape. It's meant to accommodate 198 cars, a lounge, and a recreation area. This site is serviced by public water and public sewer. Public water would be off of Progress Road. A 12-inch main exists. And a public sewer would be from a sewer force main, a private sewer force main that is built to the property boundary from the Longplex complex that will discharge to the sewer pump station constructed on the Longplex property. The parking for the site was initially designed for 1 space per 300 square foot of floor area. We had 90 spaces required. We designed for 142 spaces around the building. We also designed for an overflow lot on the lower section of the property of about 80 spaces. That at the TRC meeting, that parking area was isolated. If I could get to the site plan. So this is the site plan that was submitted for the master plan that was advertised to the public. It shows a 27,000 square foot building. It shows the parking around the building of 142 spaces, and it shows 79 spaces at the lower level that are tied into the Longplex Sports Complex as an overflow. The TRC had considered the overflow parking as an accessory use and had asked that a connecting driveway be completed. And that's how this second plan evolved. I don't know why that is.
That's okay, they should just look at the left anyways.
So we simply added a driveway to the lower level to loop through the site and then to access the Longplex parking to the west. You can see on this aerial photo, you can see the existing parking areas that we would tie into and provide for that overflow parking. There are different peaks from the sports complex, existing sports complex, and the car storage, so it's a compatible use to have the additional parking that could service both buildings.
But, Mr. Duhamel, just to be clear, based on discussion by respective councils, we're not considering this plan. If you go back one slide with just the original
Yeah, we're not considering
79.
this at all. We are only considering,
Well, if we go back to the originals, that shows it not attached.
But in terms of actual submitted plans that this board is debating and considering, this version does not hypothetically exist. I believe it's 1 page prior. That one right
There
there.
you go.
That is what we are discussing and considering tonight as part of this master plan application.
yeah, so this conforms to all zoning setbacks and requirements. It is designed with drainage that would be controlled on site, meeting all this town of Tiverton requirements, meeting the DEM stormwater requirements for flood mitigation and stormwater quality control. Again, the sewer's designed to be discharging to the Longplex pump station. The public water is off of Progress Road, and we have initial review from North Tiverton Fire District for availability of water. We are currently, I misspoke at the TRC, that we are currently awaiting approval for will serve letters from the sewer authority of the town of Tiverton. So I think that's everything I have for the master plan.
Do you, any further detail on plans to manage stormwater or anything that you discovered through analyzing the topography? And second to that, what's the DEM approval process look like for the project?
So the site drains from the frontage of Progress Road to the north, where the wetland complex exists. The drainage would be routed through catch basins and culverts to the north of the site, where there are 2 proposed stormwater management basins that would be developed to have a sand filter that clarifies the water quality of the discharge from the parking lots, and the roof leaders. And there'd be an extended dry detention basin that would meter out the flow over the peak 24-hour period to the receiving wetland. The requirements for approval are submission to the RIDM and RIPTES program for a review of the conformance with the stormwater manual for the basin designs, and an approval from the DEM prior to going to preliminary plan hearing with the town of Tiverton.
And are you aware of any public input or neighbor feedback that's been received related to this project?
Nothing but positive that I know of.
Good one. And so, outside of reacting to any feedback, have there been any? Is there a need to implement any measures to minimize impacts to abutting properties, or build any infrastructure that would accommodate those abutting properties, or is there anything integrated into the plan that would do that, or needs to be done?
There's nothing to my knowledge that would be a requirement, except for the parking, overflow parking, that's compatible with Mr. Long's other business.
Okay. And your professional experience, is this site suitable for this intended use?
Yes, very much so. The soils are well drained. There's a great plateau at the level of Progress Road that can be extended without extensive grading. So it's well suited for this development.
Okay, and just as a procedural note, based on your work in preparing the master plan submission, have all notice requirements for this hearing tonight and notice to abutters been met in accordance with Rhode Island law?
Yes.
Finally, in your professional opinion, does this master plan application comply with the Rhode Island Land Development and Subdivision Review Enabling Act?
It does.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I would anticipate the board would have other questions, but that would conclude my direct examination for now, and certainly reserve the right to supplement that if there are any further questions.
Is there any other part of your presentation at this point?
As of now, no.
Okay. Do we want a board or a public hearing first? Okay.
One thing that came up was the stone mounds. Oh, my God. The stone walls, that kind of things. Has anybody looked at that since the...
There's no stone wall that crosses the site presently. There's a piece of a stone wall at the north and west corner of the parcel, but it does not continue through the wetland. It would not be altered. This is an area that would not be altered.
I'm glad to hear from Mr. Duhamel that the sewer letter is in process. It's not here yet. I looked again. I did not have it.
Yeah, I apologize. I
Thank you, Chris.
didn't follow through.
Any other immediate questions from the board? I mean, I have several, but do we want to cover, Ashley, your memo or anything coming out of the TRC meeting on this?
That's at your pleasure. I've tried to incorporate TRC comments into the draft conditions that I provided. I know that there are some outstanding issues that haven't been necessarily resolved during the TRC meeting. 2 of the members had to leave because of a fire. So one of those conditions is essentially that they continue to negotiate and talk to each other and figure out where they fall on occupancy, because that will drive other things.
Yep.
And so that's something that needs to get figured out. There needs to be a general agreement, because the service letters from both water and sewer are affected by the building occupancy. So we can't wait. I appreciate that, like, they're not going to get a building permit if it's not done before then, but I think if we don't want to leave that because, one, the function of the TRC is to try to bring these issues up to the front of the discussion so that we don't end up in a position where the planning board is approving something that ultimately ends up becoming a permitting issue. And because the occupancy will drive service for sewer and water, we need to come to some kind of agreement on what that is. But I did try to build into the conditions the concerns that were raised, and at least condition them. And as we're talking, I'm drafting more conditions.
Okay.
So I mean, we can run through the memo, we can go through the board's questions first.
I have a
and-
couple of questions. Why don't we start there, and then we'll sort of pivot to your memo. So I have two questions. So first, I saw on another set of plans here, that ramp that I think is in the back of the building, does that ramp go up to the second story?
It does. The ramp would allow for loading cars to the second story.
Okay. Okay. And then my only other comment at this point, and understandably, given we're at master plan, there's not a tremendous amount of engineering or detail or whatever. This was a comment that came up during concept plan review, and I think, for me at least personally, as I start to see sort of the vision come to life here on paper, for me it underscores the fact that, Mr. Long, you are creating a campus here in a good way, right? Like lots of facilities, lots of activities, lots of movement of people. And while there is a fair amount of pedestrian movement enabled within each development here, and in particular with the car vault, I still think there is an opportunity to create overarching greater pedestrian walkway to limit the car traffic in between facilities to the extent that people are traveling in between facilities. And I'm very clear we're only talking about the car vault here, but I'm just thinking bigger picture, and especially just, again, seeing how much parking is here and the potential for so much vehicular traffic coming in those two roads. Like, I don't know, I'm just really concerned about pedestrian sort of safety and the likelihood of just people moving between your facilities, right, in a good way, especially whenever the hotel comes around, right? So in any case, that's more of a comment, less than a question, but I would share that with folks for consideration here. Any other board questions?
I have one, please.
Yep.
Mr. Duhamel, I see the sewer tie-in is with the existing Longplex structure.
It is. There's a sewer force main that was routed to the property, and we would utilize that rather than extend it down to Industrial Way. We would go over the two private properties. It's already constructed within the parking lot. We would tie into that and discharge to the pump station, which is at the end of Industrial Way on the.
Would you have to modify any of the Longplex sewer infrastructure in order to tie in?
We would not. We would have to analyze the effect on that, have a telemeter to shut off the station when the present station turns on, when the new station turns on.
And is that part of the plans that are going before the wastewater district?
That would be the the final plans. Right now, we're
Okay.
asking for will serve
Okay.
letters.
Mr. Chairman.
Just one second, just to follow up on that. So, Mr. Riley, I assume there will be some type of an easement recorded regarding the sewer?
Correct.
Thank you.
Private ownership.
Rosemary?
I have a housekeeping question. What is the status of the abandonment of Transit Way? Has it been formally done?
Is it
I know it was
transport?
advertised, but has it been abandoned?
Transport way.
Transport Way.
It's been abandoned.
It has been formally? And then
that's
the
right.
That was
administrative?
my understanding.
I believe there was a public hearing on that one already, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
I believe that was the June 9th.
Actually, I know it was done, yes,
Yeah, I
because the
believe-
deed has already been given to street legal.
Correct, it was a condition to close, and I believe it was the June 9th council meeting when the council held that hearing and voted.
Ready for the administrative subdivision when we get there.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
I have a question actually for Ashley. Ashley provided us a memo dated June 26, which is actually a draft master plan,
Stu, is your mic on?
a draft master plan decision, and it includes findings and conditions, all of which I agree with, but I think Ashley just mentioned that she had some additional conditions she would like to pose. So I would invite Ashley at this time to give us those additional conditions, and then we can perhaps proceed to a vote to approve the master plan, the master plan decision.
So I'm taking notes as we go, and I'm listening to commentary, and I'm drafting conditions as we're working, and I will share them, because I think we need to, in your decision, you'd need to amend them to include those, but I don't know that we're done with that. Like, we may have more because of public comment or other presentations, and so I can share them now, but then I would share them again.
Yeah, I would wait on the additional ones. Let's get through all of the board, the public comment, so that we can properly create a synopsis of those. But I do think at this point in time, there are a lot of important points that are contained within your memo, and I'd like, for the record, for that to be talked about. And I think some of these should be discussed by the board as well.
Do you have a particular, I mean, it's 8 pages. I don't want to go reading
Yeah.
the whole thing.
So let's talk about the discrepancy between the site plan and, well, actually, let me go up to the top here. So how do we reconcile the narrative with the actual uses? Does that need to be reconciled before we give master plan approval?
Well, I mean, you did weigh in on the zoning amendment that essentially outlines those uses. So I think we raised that issue, just so you're aware of it. I think that we try, and in the issues that we raised, I tried to fix them with a condition that then followed up and kind of took care of the issue.
Yeah. And I know, like, your condition number 5 says, prior to preliminary plan submission, the applicant shall obtain formal determination from the Tiverton zoning officer regarding the full scope of proposed uses.
Right.
Okay.
So that would reconcile that, because they're going to go ask the zoning official. Now there is an approved car vault that says what's allowed there and not allowed there. At the time that this was applied for, that hadn't been approved yet. So following that, going to the zoning official and getting that verification then cleans the record of that issue.
Yep.
And then it's in the file that subsequent to the application, the zoning was amended, and they match.
Okay. Okay.
Same thing with the parking analysis, there's a discrepancy between the parking analysis that they used and the parking that's in the car vault explanation or permissions that were adopted by the town council. So one of the conditions is that they come back with a full-blown analysis on parking, laying that all out, showing us where all the parking is, how it's all being used, how they meet all the requirements at preliminary.
Got it. Okay, condition number 4 is regarding the environmental site assessments.
Yep.
Can we talk through that? Because it seemed like there was not clarity as to whether or not an environmental assessment was completed, whether there was a waiver being formally requested here. Do we need to get some clarity on that?
Well, it's always an issue, I think, that we need to clarify, because the way the checklist is worded, it says that if required, and there is nobody is it doesn't say who the determining factor is and who makes the determination whether that's required or not.
Okay.
I try not to make that determination because I don't have a lot of the site history that other people know about, and so I think as part of the conversation at master plan, it's a legitimate part of the conversation that if anybody is aware of any issues that would trigger a site investigation, it would come up and
Okay.
you could ask for it. But
Okay.
if nobody raises that issue and we don't know of any potential contaminants, then I don't know that there's a reason to say that every person has to get a site assessment.
Counsel?
Mr. Chairman, on that point, I would just add that up until a few weeks ago, this was woods, and we recently closed on the property and conducted a pretty exhaustive title search as a part of that process, and we couldn't determine any preceding owners or uses that would create the need to even do that as part of due diligence to close on the transaction. And so we haven't obtained a Phase 1 study. And I would say through the ordinary course of business, we wouldn't plan to, just because there was no prior use that we were concerned about.
Okay.
So now that you have that information from the applicant, I think the board could make a determination that one is not necessary unless they're aware of some other information.
I am not, but I would open it up to anyone if anyone is. All right. Those were the only points in your memo, Ashley, that I wanted to talk through. Does the board have any other specific comments or questions about Ashley's memo before we open it up to town officials and the public?
The other thing I will say is that we have gone through and done an analysis. There's the PDP ordinance in your zoning ordinance, and then there is a specific PDP design guidelines for this park. We have gone through for both of the applications and created a table of, there's two things in those I'll call them guidelines, but there's a set of standards and then there's a set of guidelines. Standards are requirements. Those are things you have to meet. Guidelines are things that we encourage you to meet. We have gone through and looked at all of the standards and all of the guidelines against this application. We didn't provide that for you at this time because this is still conceptual and there's a lot of stuff I think that we haven't seen yet that we expect to see that will resolve those issues. But I think it will be beneficial to share that with the applicant so they're aware of it, and then make sure that at preliminary plan, we then update that based on the new plans that are provided so that you have an assessment at preliminary plan and how this project aligns with the specific standards and design guidelines for this PDP.
Great.
I believe Mr. Gerlach's point about pedestrians is very important for this park. And it should be, qualified whether we haven't had any traffic studies, and I don't think we need one at this point. But I think we have to keep that in mind with any future development in the park. It's very important. Sidewalks in Tiverton, now we have something big.
Any other points by the board before we open it up? Ashley, you good? Okay. All right. Mr. Murphy, do you want to?
Did the applicant have anything else?
Oh, I'm sorry. Way to keep you on your toes. Does the applicant have anything else they want to present or comment on or?
No, Mr. Chairman, I'd just say, anticipating the fire marshal's review, based on the feedback we got in the TRC meeting, we brought in our code consultant. He will be available as an expert at the preliminary plan stage, but well before then, he will be working with the fire marshal and the building official, along with our project engineer, to make sure we're all on the same page as far as use, occupancy, obviously final design before submitting detailed engineering drawings. So I know the fire marshal has feedback, but since we were mentioning that TRC feedback we got earlier, I just want the board to know that we've started that process and we're going to make sure we're on the same page with them.
Great. Sir?
Hi, Fire Marshal Murphy. I want to apologize to the applicant because I did not bring this up, and I want to bring this up, apologize to the board that I didn't bring this information up at the TRC meeting. The only question I have, and I understand I'm not going to comment about our TRC, but what's the topography coming in from the driveway to the new driveway or new parking lot? Only reason it can't be too steep for the fire trucks to bottom out. That would be my only concern, and then just turn around for the ladder truck.
So can we clarify the question? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
So where the new parking lot meets the old parking lot?
Yep.
What's the topography, so the grade going up? Because
Gotcha.
if it's too steep, my ladder, any of my trucks could potentially bottom out.
Okay.
And that's what I apologize to the applicant and you, that I did not bring this up at the TRC. And then again, I know there's gonna be another parking lot at some point, and I know we can't talk about it, but just, make sure that my ladder truck can get around both, the lots. That would be it.
Sure. It's 8%.
Can you, I'm sorry, sir, can you use the mic?
It'll be 8% leading from the lower parking lot, rising to the new parking lot, and we'll do a fire truck turning demonstration, just like we did around the building itself, utilizing the Tiverton 49-foot fire truck, ladder truck. So we'll work with you, certainly.
Is 8% an acceptable grade?
It might be a little bit too much, but I don't want to say anything until I look it up.
Okay, so I would make sure that
We used 8% as the maximum that the town right-of-way would be allowed.
So I would make sure that, however, we need to capture that as a sort of condition to be solved for during preliminary. With that, open it up for the public hearing portion of this. We're going to try to limit to 3 minutes. When you come up, please state your name for the record and address.
That's the one. Peter Monis, 83 Captain Circle. I have a technical questions, basically. Maybe the first thing I want to do is get an update on the sewer line going into this park area. Is that the one coming, shall I ask my questions through you? Or
I
through
would
the-
say come through us, and then we'll redirect that to
What was
the
that?
applicant.
Ask the question to the board, and we will
Okay.
redirect.
He was talking away from the microphone.
That's how we usually
Sorry.
do it.
And we have a problem hearing because you guys are not speaking into the microphones
We're trying our
clearly.
best.
So, my first question is, the sewer line, public sewer line, is that the Fall River terminal line from Fall River up to into the park now? Or is this a local septic system out there?
I would ask our applicant's engineer to address that. I don't think it's on site. I think it's tying into the
Yeah, I
wastewater
want to get
district
upgraded 'cause
infrastructure, but
when I was on the board, it wasn't done, and I just want to know, I've been under the assumption that it's only at the borderline, let's say. So I want to get that cleared up, please.
sure. So can we ask the applicant to respond to that question, please?
Certainly. There's existing sewer on Industrial Way that leads to the terminus of Industrial Way at this location, and the sewer pump station for the Longplex Sports Complex exists at that terminus. And there's gravity sewer that runs, to the building itself, and then a sewer force main runs to this parcel. And we would utilize the sewer force main, go into the gravity, go into the private pump station. And then to Fall River.
Okay, so it is a public service. So my next question is that pump station and the force main owned by the Tiverton Waste Management people, or is it owned by the property owner?
I'm pretty sure that's owned by the wastewater district,
okay.
but we'll ask the applicant to respond, please.
I would assume it's private. It's private now.
You can't assume what you have, so you only...
So,
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Questions to the board, Mr. Moniz?
yeah, I would let's just
Okay.
make sure that
Well-
we're clarifying.
The word assumption's not very good at a public hearing.
I completely agree.
Okay, so that basically has a certain capacity, that equipment there. And now we're talking about a new building, which is going to house maybe 200 vehicles. And it certainly would serve the vehicles okay, but what's the capacity for people? And this is more than a bond for cars, very expensive cars, by the way. So there's supposed to be a background of a party or a functional room there. What's the capacity of that? And then the following-up question is, you're adding more parking, so that means I got the feeling that the total capacity of that building will be more than what it's been stated today. So the total capacity of that sewer facility should be verified by the Tiverton sewer waste people to make sure that equipment is adequate enough to cover that. And then I know there's another piece of property we want to talk about tonight, or you guys want to talk about, and that's the ice rink. Is that going to be connected through here, or is it separate?
And I'm sorry, Mr. Moniz, the 3 minutes is up.
It
Let me
does-
try to.
If it's connected through here, then the capacity of what they have now is another problem.
I would completely agree. I would recommend that we take up Iceplex sewer capacity during that part of the
You can skip
discussion.
the one, but just answer get the first questions
Yeah,
answered.
yeah, no,
I'll sit down.
I'm trying
I'll
to
sit
take
down right
notes
now.
and repeat. So, can we ask the applicant to comment? Let me try to go in reverse order here in terms of person capacity of the overall building, and if that differs in any way from person capacity of the club function space.
Certainly. So what we would do is work with the fire marshal on the capacity, the occupancy capacity, as well as the functional capacity, what Mr. Long envisions for the private membership, for any events that he's holding. So we would fine-tune what the exact flow would be, and then based on RIDM accepted flow rates per person per day, we would create a maximum average flow, and we would design the sewer treatment, the sewer system to accommodate that flow. And it could be with an oversized tank, it could be with
Sure.
pumping off peak. But all that exact design would be at the next level, the preliminary plan level.
And could you
which
you
would-
clarify whether or not you've engaged the Tiverton wastewater district yet at this point?
We've only submitted for will serve letters. We've quantified the amount of sewage at 2,000 gallons a day, which might be higher. But we're working that out as we speak. It might be slightly higher, but it's.
So I would let's make sure we're getting those details and letter of acceptance from the wastewater district as part of preliminary. So Mr. Moniz, that'll get covered. We'll determine that.
And just to jump ahead, the private sewer force main would not be utilized for the ice house when we get to that. But
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments from the public?
Susan Anderson, Main Road. There's a lot of asphalt here, and I don't see too much landscaping to break up all this impermeable. That's my comment.
So the comment for folks was that at this point in the plans, we're seeing a lot of asphalt, not a lot of landscaping, permeous surfaces for runoff purposes. I imagine we're going to get a lot more detail on the landscaping plan when we get the preliminary, but I mean, is there any initial sort of comment or feedback on that?
I believe, Mr. Chairman, that the design standards for the business park also require more green space within the parking areas. Yes. So they shall comply with those.
Okay.
That's right, Mr. Hardy?
Yep. And really nothing to add beyond that. And the final landscaping plan would be reflective of those
Okay.
standards.
Great. Any other public comment? Any other public comment? Any other public comment? All right, well, this closes the public hearing portion of it. We'll return to the board. Any other board comments, questions, concerns that have not been raised? Okay. Ashley, how are we doing on the synopsis of new?
I have 5 new.
Okay, do you want to recap those, please? Can you just?
Sorry. So number 12 would be that the accessory parking lot shown on the plan containing a total of 80 spaces shall be directly connected to the street legal facility, and the preliminary plan shall be updated to reflect that connection, because the plan you have does not have it connected at all.
It's 79 spaces.
79, sorry. The new plan says 80. So that would be a condition, would be that that connection be made. So you'd have the one parking lot, but you're requiring that they connect it to the existing parking lot, because it's currently not shown
Of the
that
car
way.
vault.
Of the car vault, yes. The next one is that the sewer service is proposed to be tied into the sewer service for Longplex. This will require approval from the Tiverton wastewater district and a recorded easement for the sewer tie-in. I would say prior to a final plan approval, not necessarily at preliminary, if you're in agreement with that.
Is that the standard?
The easement.
The easement, yes.
Okay.
The easement needs to be part of preliminary, but
The easement at final.
oh, okay.
The wastewater management acceptance at preliminary plan?
Well, I have another
Okay.
I have another condition for that. The next one would be the applicant shall make pedestrian connectivity and provide a plan for pedestrian safety at the preliminary plan stage of review. That was one of the things that came to my mind when I saw the updated plan with the second parking lot, that is a very long distance from your destination and no clear path on how any pedestrian is supposed to get there safely. So that is something that we definitely would need to see. The next one would be the applicant will work with the fire marshal on the grade of the site connecting the accessory parking lot to the Longplex parking lot, and show a truck turning radius for maneuvering the site and the parking lots. The next one, or the last one, is the applicant will provide a will serve letter from the Tiverton wastewater district reflecting the correct projected flow as agreed to by the fire marshal.
Those sound appropriate to me. Any board comment?
I have one comment, Ashley, and it might just be a clarification there on, there's the grade, which to ensure that the fire truck can get in, and then it seems like these might be two things, though, or we're stacking a couple of ideas.
So
Sorry, go ahead.
my understanding is that the question is about the grade at the connection where the parking lot is connecting to Longplex.
Yeah, so where you see the gray from the
Yep.
old parking lot, those two driveways up to the new parking lot, if it's too steep, my fire trucks are not gonna get up, they'll bottom out.
Right, so
that
that's
was
the
my question to the engineer. And
that's
again, I
the-
apologize to them that I didn't do it. And then once you get into the parking lot, we just gotta make sure that the ladder truck
Can get
can
around.
turn around it, right.
Right, so it's a two-part
Yeah.
condition. One is that they'll work with you on that
Yep.
grade at the entrance,
Yep.
and that they will show you a truck turning radius for maneuvering the site and the parking lots.
Okay. Before we, is there anything else that anyone can raise that would prohibit us from moving to a conditional vote this evening on the master plan application as presented?
Do you want me to go through the rest of the conditions, just for the benefit of everyone
please.
here? Since I only read the last 5 that I just wrote. So number 1 would be a long-term operation and maintenance plan for stormwater infrastructure shall be submitted as part of the preliminary plan in accordance with the land development and subdivision regulations. The next one is an updated lighting and landscape plan shall be submitted with the preliminary plan and shall conform to the master plan design specifications subject to staff review for consistency with the PDP standards. The applicant shall consult with the Tiverton Fire Department as part of preliminary plan review to confirm that hydrant placement, access geometry, and maneuverability meet emergency service needs. This one is the applicant shall confirm in writing whether any environmental site assessments, Phase 1 ESA, have been conducted. If no such assessment exists, the planning board may request a limited review based on site history or prior industrial use. Number 5, prior to preliminary plan submission, the applicant shall obtain formal determination from the Tiverton zoning officer regarding the full scope of the proposed uses. Number 6, as the project is located within the planned development park overlay district, the applicant shall submit a detailed design compliance statement with the preliminary plan application addressing the standards of Appendix A, Article 9, Section 5, including building architecture, landscape, circulation, and signage. Number 7, at the preliminary plan stage, the applicant shall submit a detailed parking analysis that accounts for all proposed uses, including but not limited to vehicle storage, member clubhouse activities, food and beverage service, detailing and events, and the plan must demonstrate compliance with the parking requirements of the Tiverton zoning ordinance and specifically the shared parking requirements under Article 10, Section 1. Number 8, the applicant is conditioned on the submission and approval of an administrative subdivision, removing the interior lot lines and merging the subject parcels into a, single lot of record. Number 9, the applicant shall work with the fire marshal and the building official to resolve any discrepancies or issues related to the building occupancy calculations and/or limits. This issue shall be resolved prior to a submission of a preliminary plan and documented in writing and submitted by the applicant. Number 10, the application includes letters regarding water availability and fire flow from North Tiverton Water and Fire Marshal, but confirmation of system capacity and utility connection approvals should be formalized with preliminary plan submission. The letter submitted by North Tiverton Water is based on occupancy provided by the applicant, which is under review by the fire marshal and building official. Any change to the agreed upon occupancy shall be reflected in an updated service letter from North Tiverton Water, accurately reflecting water demand. Number 11, the fire department has assigned a project address of 216 Progress Way, which should be consistently used in future plan sets and legal documents. And then it's the 5 additional that I read.
So if we're at a point, Mr. Chairman, that you would entertain a motion?
Can you give me 30 seconds, and then I'll defer to you, Stu? So my only other comment here is, can we clarify the discrepancy in the time clock expiration?
Yes, we agree that it's September 8. It calculates to September 7th, but that moves it to the 8th because it's a Sunday.
Okay, so just for the record, the agenda says the 22nd, your memo says October 7th, but we are now saying that the time clock.
I believe we meant to say September 7th, and it was accidentally put in as October.
Okay.
So,
But
but
we're
we've
talk-
confirmed that it is September 7th, kicks it to the 8th because it's
Okay.
a Sunday.
Are we clear? So the new time clock date has been clarified to be September 7th, and it'll kick over to the 8th. Okay. All right. Stu?
Yes, I will make a motion to approve the draft master plan decision that was provided to us in a memo of June 26, 2025 by Ashley Sweet, interim town planner and AO, which includes the 5 required findings of fact, the 11 and the 16 conditions that Ashley just read, 11 of them in the June memo, and the 5 new ones tonight that pick up some of the more recent concerns that have been expressed by the members of the public, by the fire marshal, and by members of the planning board.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Cheryl. Okay. Any discussion?
That would be conditional.
No.
That would be conditional master plan approval.
Conditioned on the 16 conditions
Yes.
we've identified,
I
yes.
understand, but put it in language.
Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor? Looks to be unanimous. Janice, were you? Yep. All right. That's unanimous. All right, thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 2, Longplex Ice and Golf LLC, LP Properties LLC, by and through James Long, 796 Aquidneck Ave, Middletown. Town of Tiverton, 343 Highland Road, Tiverton is the owner. The petition is Major Land Development Master Plan Review, recommendation to Town Council to amend zoning ordinance to create this use with Article 6, Section 10, Performance Standards, or with Article 16, Section 5, Specific and Objective Criteria. This will be a public hearing. In synopsis, the development is a proposed 91,559 square foot, 2-story building for a sports complex, which includes, but is not limited to, 2 ice rinks, 12 pickleball courts, driving range and virtual golf stations, restaurant, associated locker rooms, ice skate rentals, concession stand, storage and office space for the sports complex. And there's a purchase agreement with Longplex Ice and Golf. It's located at 0 Industrial Way, 0 Progress Road, 0 Communication Way, and 0 Enterprise Way. Plat 109, lots 720 through 734, Industrial Zoning District, Planned Development Park Floating Zone. So, this is a discussion and possible vote on the Major Land Development Master Plan application, as well as a decision and possible vote on the zoning ordinance amendments that I just covered 30 seconds ago. Todd.
2 things. This concerns lots 720 through 742. That's what the advertisement was in the newspaper. That's what the advertisement or the abutters notice was. It's a typographical error here. That's all it was just a Scrivener's error on the agenda. It's not important, I don't think, to this evening's hearing.
Okay.
Second thing, time clock should be adjusted to reflect September 8, 2025.
Okay.
Final thing, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. And as I advised the board in a memorandum, tonight you have this ice house, iceplex, whatever we're referring it to, as there is no use for this project. You're going to be making a recommendation to the town council for a zoning ordinance amendment eventually, not necessarily this evening. And I say that because you also have to amend the comprehensive community plan to have the PDP or the business park reflect this type of a use, if you agree. And that would require a public hearing with 3 weeks notice prior to. So the soonest you could do that would be August. So rather than do it piecemeal, it would be my recommendation. You do it all at once, but you commence the hearing this evening.
Duly noted. Thank you. Sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just for purposes of logistics here, would you like to, we're going to hold the hearing, I assume, on the master plan submission, followed by the comp plan and the zoning ordinance? Would you like it wrapped in or direct questions related to that now? How would you like to proceed?
My initial reaction is to do it piecemeal, to try to keep things controlled, but if there's a more expeditious way to do it, then I'm certainly open to that.
I think it's going to be a fluid hearing.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a right or wrong way here. I say we jump in and
because
see
the
where
ordinance has to reflect the use, and he's going to describe the use to you.
Yeah, right, that's what I was thinking. Okay. Well, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the Planning Board, for the record, again, Attorney Daniel Riley on behalf of applicant Longplex Ice and Golf LLC. The team for this project remains the same as before. I'm joined by Chris Duhamel, who's the project engineer, James Long, who is the owner of Longplex Ice and Golf LLC, and Melissa Hutchinson, the architect of record on the project as well. We're before you tonight for master plan approval, along with the recommended change to the zoning code, should the planning board agree, for an approximately 92,000 square foot indoor recreation facility. The location is off of Progress Way, directly across from the Progress Way exit from the current Longplex complex. To put the size in comparison, just so you're aware, This project would be about, the building would be about 92,000 square feet, as mentioned. The current Longplex building is about 125,000 square feet in surface area, so it is actually a smaller project, but incorporates various recreational uses that are different from the current Longplex project. In particular, the principal use would be 2 ice rinks on a concrete surface, associated locker room facilities, bleacher seating for 1,000 people, 12 pickleball courts across 2 levels. The structure itself is 2 levels. A restaurant with approximately 140 seats in the current plan. Virtual indoor golf using simulators with approximately 6 simulators. Box seats and seating in that area for entertainment, and an indoor-outdoor driving range across 2 levels with approximately 37 hitting bays. By way of just to expand on the introduction of the concept, the business, Longplex has developed a very successful indoor recreation business across various sports, and these are sports that cannot be accommodated in the current facility, and there has been a need identified in the market by my client. The building is an indoor recreation facility, as noted, which would require a change to the zoning code. There is an indoor recreation facility currently allowed in the PDP. That's how Longplex is permitted, but we've gone back and forth with the town, and we're in agreement that clarification to the zoning code would be required here, or should be required here, because of the various uses that are taking place inside this building that weren't necessarily contemplated when the PDP was originally crafted with that indoor recreation facility. I will ask again that Chris Duhamel be accepted as a witness. I know we've done this, but just to preserve the record, I would ask that he be accepted as a witness, and I will ask that he step forward unless there's any objection.
No objection. Do we need to swear in Mr. Duhamel again?
Yes, we do. It's a new hearing. Mr. Duhamel, sorry, my eyes are not good. And do you swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give to this board in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and that is your solemn affirmation?
I do.
Thank you.
Mr. Duhamel, I know you stated previously in the previous application, but since this is a new application and a new hearing, I would ask for you to again to state your name, professional affiliation, and role for this project specifically.
Certainly. My name is Chris Duhamel. I'm a professional engineer and land surveyor within the state of Rhode Island. I've been practicing civil and environmental engineering and land surveying for 38 years with DePrete Engineering, with offices located in Newport and Cranston.
And can you briefly describe this proposed project, including the type of development and the building itself?
Certainly. This site, the project site, is located on Assessors Plat 109, lots 720 through 742, including 2 paper streets. There's 51.34 acres that are encompassed. There is wetlands within the property, yielding a upland area of 32.45 acres. The wetlands and buffers equal 18.9 acres. If I can move this. So this site is located, the 52 acres is located on the south side of Progress Road. There's 1,800 linear feet of frontage along Progress Road. It runs from the midpoint of Progress Road, I'll characterize it as, and all the way towards the end. The wetland area is included in that, and this large upland area is what is proposed to be part of the development. There is a conceptual master plan designed with a approximately 90,000 square foot footprint that includes a driving range within the structure itself, and the driving range exits to the east, shown in green on this plan. The wetlands have been all verified delineated by Dupree Engineering, verified by the RIDEM, and the proposed development is outside of any wetlands or any wetland buffers. The parking for the building is, again, calculated at 1 space per 300 units, where 412 spaces are considered required. 442 spaces are proposed. The site itself is on 22 acres of the 35 acres of upland area. There is a large area to the east of the development, 10.5 acres that are reserved for future use that would have to have town planning board review and approval if any use was presented. But that is not included in this master plan. The public water exists on Progress Road as a 12-inch main. The calculated water flows, given the uses within the site and given the requirements of DEM for the individual uses, yield a maximum average day of 22,000 gallons per day. North Tiverton Fire District has analyzed at 22,000 gallons per day and the required fire flow for the facility, and have approved use of the water extension. Sewer is applied for a will serve letter for the 22,000 gallons per day maximum. We would, as with the last project, we would work with the fire marshal on occupancy and adjusting the flow for that occupancy, and applied to North Tiverton Fire District and Town of Tiverton Wastewater District for approval of that revised flow if required. That would all occur at the preliminary plan level. I think that's it.
And based on your design of the property, the lot lines and the adjacent properties, has there been a need to add in any features to minimize impacts to any of those abutting properties?
No, there is not. There is no other development within the vicinity of what's being proposed. There's no detrimental use by this development.
I believe you said it already, but just to be clear, related to stormwater and DEM approvals, any special engineering required at this stage, and what is the nature of the DEM approvals, or any other state agencies required after this?
Yes, I should have mentioned, similar to the previous application, this site would be required to mitigate increases in stormwater runoff from the 1 to 100-year storm. We would have to comply with the RIDEM stormwater manual. Application to DEM would review the pre and post development conditions and would detail the stormwater management system that it would mitigate to levels that are equal to or less than pre-development levels of runoff discharge. There would be a stormwater maintenance manual that would be required within that approval. The RIDEM and RIPT's permit would be a result of that application.
More of a procedural question. Based on your work preparing this master plan submission, have all notice requirements for the public hearing tonight and abutters been met in accordance with Rhode Island law?
Yes. Yes.
In your professional opinion, does this master plan application comply with the Rhode Island Land Development and Subdivision Review Enabling Act?
It does.
And lastly, based on your professional experience, is the proposed site suitable for this intended development?
Very much suitable for this recreational development.
Very good. Mr. Chairman, that would conclude my direct exam for now. As before, I would just reserve in case we have to supplement anything based on questions, and certainly available for questions.
Okay, thank you. Let's cover off on sort of the master plan as presented, and then we'll get into the comprehensive community plan and the other stuff here. Can we just confirm the extent to which this particular project was able to be discussed at the recent TRC meeting, Technical Review Committee meeting?
So it was discussed absent the fire marshal, and the building official who had to leave because of an emergency.
Okay, so that would then, Ashley, your memo dated 7/1, July 1st, on this could have additional content on that based on fire marshal and building official review and commentary.
Correct.
Okay. And is there a plan to re-engage with the fire marshal and building inspector to close that out?
I don't know if there's anything formalized, but they're going to have to continue to work with the fire marshal and building official on the issues.
And if warranted, any issues that arise would be worked into perhaps an updated memo from you with conditions of master plan approval articulated?
I'll share with you my personal opinion on TRC. The law has the TRC initiating at a master plan stage. It's mostly conceptual. I mean, we have engineering comments that are, this is conceptual. There's not a lot for me to dig into here, which really, in my opinion, devalues the benefit of the technical review committee. I think it's a benefit to the applicant and to the town that the technical review committee look at preliminary plans. That's where the hard engineering is. There's not, the engineering comments at the master plan TRC are basically, there's nothing to comment on. Or the comments are very high level because everything is relatively conceptually designed. We have an idea of where stormwater is going to be, but it's not engineered. It's not fully calculated, and so there's not hard numbers to reply to in that sense. Part of the discussion that we had at the TRC with one of the applications was, well, wait a minute, this looks different than the plans I reviewed. And it's like, well, it's in flux, it's conceptual, we've changed things, and it makes it challenging. I mean, I don't know that you couldn't ask the applicant to go back and do a TRC at preliminary when there is hard engineering. It makes the review process move smoother, as opposed to at the preliminary plan stage, we have to, give every person a set of plans and ask for their independent comments back. It's an inefficient process, and sometimes people don't respond, as opposed to just having a collective meeting of those individuals sitting around the table for an hour, going through the application and talking about it in my opinion, is a much more effective process, and you get better comment out of it. So I think when the applicant is willing, we should do a TRC at preliminary.
There you go. Thank you for that.
And we
Counsel?
would agree with that.
Okay. Okay. Is there any other initial comments or questions from the board as it relates to the master plan application in its current shape and form? I have one question. So that estimated 22,000 gallons of water per day, does that factor in the laying of the two rinks initially?
It's based on the use, the occupancy of the particular uses, and then it's tied into the maximum day that the RIDM requires.
Okay. And how often would you anticipate, I don't know what the proper term is, de-icing and then re-icing the rinks?
Of the 10,000 gallons that de-ice, I mean, that's an operational thing that we'll have to work out with.
I'm just curious, like, how does that factor into the overall sort of load on the water demand?
So my understanding, and Mr. Long can comment on some of the specifics if you wish, but is that the water is recycled. So it never goes back down to bare concrete, only to be refrozen, completely again. So whatever is lost, you wouldn't have to replace all of that ice again. But
Yep. And is it 10,000 gallons per rink? I don't even know.
I thought we had discussed that.
Yeah, that should be close, but we have to confirm that.
Okay.
with The manufacturer.
Any other comments or questions from the board?
I just have one brief comment concerning stone or rock piles that would be displaced or removed when the ice complex is built. I'm just raising this because there is some anecdotal commentary on the internet by a blogger who may not have the credentials to have a lot of credibility here, but I think it may bear further looking into before those rock mounds, which I have seen actually, are removed. So it's conceivable that we might have a condition on master plan approval when we get to that point in time, that a qualified archaeologist from public archaeological laboratory or some organization like that take a look at that to confirm that it is not in fact Native American, pre-colonial, or if there is some question that it might be, to document with both commentary and photographic evidence before it's disturbed or removed. That's all. That was the only comment I have.
Thank you, Stu. Ashley,
I
did you?
like this project very much.
Great. Ashley, were you able to capture that?
I think so.
Okay. Any other board comment, questions? All right.
I have
Oh,
a question. This
yeah,
may-
VA.
it was just,
Can you speak into the mic? Sorry.
This may be a moot point, because it may have been addressed by town council, but there was. Sorry. In our packet, there was an abutter email regarding
Yeah,
Road 2 and communication.
I was going to work that into the public comment
Never mind.
portion. Yep, no. All right, we're going to open up the public hearing on that. Before anyone jumps up to VA's point, we did receive an email from Jeffrey C. Kilbasa of Maverick Properties, LLC, 1220 Fish Road in Tiverton. And basically the essence is Maverick Properties LLC, as an abutter, objects to the currently proposed changes to the industrial park. The current plan allows us to access our property by way of Road 2, also known as Communication Drive. Our property fronts Fish Road, but we access to the rear of the property. It can only be obtained by crossing several streams and 2 swamps, which would be environmentally unattainable. The current proposal would permanently landlock our lot, making development impossible. We feel it would be in the best interest of the town to retain Road 2, also known as Communication Drive, so that we may at some point develop the property further, adding to the town's tax rolls. This is the only part of the current proposal that we object to. Is Mr. Kilbasa here? Sir, do you want to take the mic? Could you just, again, for the record, state your name and address, please?
Jeff Kilbasa, 94 Sakana Boulevard in Portsmouth, and I own Maverick Properties LLC, 1220 Fish Road, Tiverton. We abut the project to the south, pretty much the whole way.
Was pretty much, I'm sorry?
Pretty much the whole way. We abut the whole parcel to the
Okay.
south, pretty much the whole way.
I'm a visual, I can't, without like seeing a map of this, I don't, conceptually.
Well, there was one up there before.
Right here, this is the property. This apparently belongs to the town of Tiverton. This is all Maverick.
Okay.
Properties can run this completely. So they can access their Fish Road. It's kind of, it's a long and lean
Okay.
property. And it looked like this might have been Road 2.
That's a good one.
Connected.
Has the applicant taken this under consideration? I mean, is there active conversation here to try to mitigate this, or?
You were aware of Mr. Kilbasa's letter. I would just say that, so if you look at the map, the paper road on the left is Communication Drive, and that's what you're referring to, you have access off of. Our understanding, based on the topography, was that at the end of Communication Drive, that was wetlands that you couldn't build through regardless. At the end of the other paper road, Enterprise Way, you can see that goes into a lot currently on the plot map, so it wouldn't actually touch this other property. Actually, at that point, it becomes the town of Tiverton's property, the south. I would just say that, the Communication Drive portion of the property is actually not subject to this development site. That would be contained within the 10 acres Mr. Duhamel had mentioned as being potentially future development. So, I'm not going to get into the specifics of that wetland. That was just our understanding of it, that you couldn't actually build, well, it would be difficult to build a road through there. But even so, it wouldn't, connection to Communication Drive or a future paper or a future road that would to replace it wouldn't affect this development site and could be the subject of a future development proposal anyways, because it's very likely a road would be proposed to access that property, but that's purely theoretical.
Isn't the project going to plot this so it's all one lot?
So,
the way I understand it.
I'm sorry, could you direct the question, technically speaking, to us and we'll convey?
It was my understanding that this, the project is going to kind of rezone the land or change the whole lot to one lot, and it will no longer be. It's all one project.
So the question is, like, are we combining lots administratively in order to?
well, that would be required for approval of the project, but that would be through the administrative subdivision process.
Sure. And so, Mr. Kilbasa, can you access your property from Fish Road?
No,
No.
no. So it's,
Can I?
you gotta go over Sin and Flesh Brook, I think's behind it, you just
Okay.
can't.
Okay. Ashley?
I just want to ask some clarifying questions. It's hard to tell because we have a plan that shows the paper roads and all the lots, but it doesn't show the development. And then we have a plan that shows the development, but it doesn't show the paper roads and the lots. And then I have a plan that shows the development, and it does show the paper roads and the lots, but the lots are not numbered, so I can't tell you which numbers. Can you go to sheets, I think it's 6 of 7? All right, so looking at this plan, the roadway shown to the left of the proposed development is the one that we're talking about. That's Communication Drive?
Yes.
Correct?
Correct. Yes.
If you're going to do an administrative subdivision to merge all these lots, Communication Drive has to be abandoned.
Correct.
It's a paper street.
And we've petitioned for that, and that
Right.
is a condition of the purchase and sale agreement for the property.
So I understand the gentleman's concern in the sense that if you abandon Communication Drive and you combine all of these lots into one district, his only access is now Fish Road, which he can't get there from here because that's a massive wetland crossing. I mean, I suppose you could get it, but
Well, plus, I think the way the building is now, I wouldn't have the frontage, I wouldn't have the width for the road.
well, you're pre-existing, so your lot is your lot, but you'd have to get through DEM to
Right.
cross that complex in order to get in there, unless there is an existing cart path, roadway, driveway, anything there now. But if there isn't,
It's nothing.
that is from ground zero, a pretty significant wetland crossing at DEM.
Why wasn't this flagged as part of the purchase and sale agreement? I mean, this just seems like it would have or should have been caught.
Is there a way to merge, and again, I don't have the lot numbers when I'm looking at that plan, but is there a way to merge the lots that are to the, what is that, the east? Yeah. the east of Communication Drive, leaving Communication Drive and the lots to the west until there's some negotiated agreement that there's going to be some kind of access there? I mean, it's reserved for future development. Would you be opposed at this until you can kind of work something out?
I think we'd have to discuss that.
Sure.
I'm not prepared to say a firm yes or no either way.
And I understand that. I'm just raising the issue now so that you can talk about that and we can hopefully come up with some kind of resolution. It just doesn't seem fair to have your project essentially negate their ability or raise the bar really high for them to be able to get to their site to develop it. And so I'd like to see a way to resolve this, and if we start the conversation now, hopefully we can get there by the time you need decisions on things.
Yep.
Understood.
So, Mr. Kilbasa, you need to, the expectation is that the applicant will work with you to start that conversation and figure out an amenable way to sort of mitigate this or resolve it.
That'll be fine with me.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any other public comment here? Sue? Or, oh, yes, Fire Marshal. No, Fire Marshal. Let's go.
So again, I want to apologize to the applicant and the board that unfortunately at the TRC meeting I had to leave due to we had a fire at a commercial building. I'd like to ask the board if we can get clarification on how Dupree obtained his occupancy numbers within his paperwork so that I can kind of confirm with what I got.
Okay.
Because they're not like hundreds off, we're probably double.
Okay. Can we ask the applicant to speak to that concern?
Yeah, we're going to have to work with the fire marshal, but essentially it's the architectural plans and the amount of seating and common areas that are proposed, and then we equate that use with the water demand of the DEM, and that's how we came up with 22,000 gallons per day. So if the fire marshal has a different means, we'll certainly work with him and his department and
Okay.
go from there. We had 1,552 people, and it's a lot of people.
Mr. Murphy, do you want to?
If the board will like, I can plug my computer in and I can kind of go through and show the codes, because I can only go by what the National Fire Protection Association, the state of Rhode Island, allows me to go with.
Sure. Can the applicant unplug their?
Yeah, to be truthful, this is something we have to work out with. I don't know if the board has to see the sausage being made, but if you wish.
It's up to you. I'm at about 36. I'll give you the exact number. Oh, somebody opened the door.
We may all be going.
Oh, good thing you're here.
Oh, this isn't mine. This is yours, sir. I grabbed your paperwork.
What'd you do?
It's hot in here.
So I sat down today and I went through every area. I excluded, I don't have to pull mine up if they don't want me to, but that's your decision.
I think Captain now, correct?
Yeah, whatever.
Dan.
Hey, you.
Hey.
I answered everything.
Hey, good looking. I think it'll benefit the board and the applicant if you were to present your numbers
Okay.
so that they have that education now.
So this is the ice plex, and I'll take it a little bit at a time. So the skating rink, if somebody wants to do the math, if they think I'm wrong, please do it along. It's 200 feet by 85 feet. If I shoot over to the NFPA code, which again is the only code I can follow, if you look in the bottom, it says skating rink, and it is 50 square feet per person. So at 17,000 square feet of ice, divided by 50 is 340 people per ice. They have 2 ice skating rinks. That's 680 people. They do have open skating because, oops, they do have skate rentals. Do I expect them to have 680? Probably not, but I can't control that. I can only go by what the code tells me, and that's what they have for the ice rinks, okay? Bleachers. First set of bleacher on the first floor says 1,000. I got 936, but again, it depending on the type of bleachers that they have and whatever, that can change. That's on the first floor. What you don't see and what's not in the calculations is there are also a set of bleachers on the second floor. Second floor bleachers have a capacity of 1,400 people. So total capacity, I'll use my calculations, is 2,340 people just for the bleachers alone.
Is that correct?
I'm sorry, so your total calculation for first floor and second floor bleachers is 2,340?
2,340, correct.
And the applicant is projecting,
At 1,000. They only calculated the number according to Mr. DePreet's plan. They only have it as 1,000. There's there's 2 floors of bleachers.
Okay.
According to their plan that's submitted. Unless this is changed, that has not come to my office, this is the plan that I've been using.
okay. Can the applicant respond to that?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, my understanding is that that bleacher is one set of bleachers. The plan just shows it extending.
I'm going to show you that right now, because that's what we've gone over. If you look, unless this plan is wrong, if you look to the right, you have dimensions. You have a 20-foot dimension on top right corner. Underneath the 24, you have a 50-foot and a 50-foot. It's 120 feet, correct? See that line goes through that bleachers section? If you go to the second floor, you still have those same dimensions. 20, 50, 50. That line does not go through the set of bleachers. That second floor bleachers is another 40 feet beyond the first floor dimensions. So again, unless these plans are wrong, I can only go by what's proposed here.
That's why we should really have a meeting and go over the plans with the architect and work this out, because we were led to believe it's 1,000. The fire marshal is reading something that we could have missed, and we need to meet with him.
All right.
Yeah, let him go ahead and point out his concerns, I think.
Yeah, please continue.
So again, I know this is code. I know this is not part of this, but having a couple thousand or 1,500 people off, I feel is concerning, especially because it is going to come down to the main entrance issue, okay? So, and I'm going to go into a little bit of a change in regards to the skating rink at the end. I did not do an occupancy of the locker rooms, because if you're on the skating rink, you're either going to be in the locker rooms or vice versa. So I considered the locker rooms as incidental use to the building. I also considered the concession stand on the first floor as incidental use to the building. So that's not an occupancy. Okay. So the next thing I did is the pickleball court. There is 12 pickleball courts. They have a capacity of 12 people. There's 12 pickleball courts. I've never played pickleball. I don't think you play by yourself. I have a capacity, if I go 20 by 44, which is again their numbers just on the courts. I did not do the number of the area. The pickleball court is 880 square feet. If I go to the NFPA code, there is nothing here for pickleball court. So what I did use is I used the exercise rooms with equipment, which is 50 square feet per person. That gives me, sorry, I kind of lost my track here. 88 people. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. I'm wrong. I'm in the wrong one. That gives me 17.6 people per court. I understand it's 4, but he technically, if he wants, can pull the nets down and have an event. But I can only go by what is code compliant. I cannot go any more or any less than the code. So if I do 17 times 6, that's 102 people in this first floor area. And again, this is code, and I'm showing to you right here by the numbers that are provided, which the first floor and the second floor are identical, which gets me 204 people. So that would give me my first floor. Oh, excuse me, I forgot. I have the outdoor driving range there. So first floor driving range of all 20, I anticipated approximately 88 people. And I did that. The length is 220 feet, I think it is. times 2 times 20 is 4,400 square feet, divided by 50 is 88 people. Second floor. Again, we've already talked about the bleachers, we've already talked about the rinks, we've already talked about pickleball. The restaurant. Restaurant, according to their calculations, says 5,000 square feet. On a restaurant, we use the less concentrated use without fixed seating, which is tables and chairs. That's 15 square feet per person. That's 334 people just in the restaurant. And again, that is their numbers, that is the NFPA code. Team tables and chairs. Team tables and chairs, according to their numbers, says 775 square feet. I divided that by 15, that's 51.6 people. So 333 plus 51 is 384 people in that restaurant. Virtual golf, there's technically 3 different sizes of the virtual golf. There's technically 6 booths. 2 of them are 280 square feet. I want to say 2 are 234 square feet, and 2 of them are 223 square feet. So what I did is I took the 223 square feet, divided it by 50. That gives me 4.46 people. The 280 square feet, I divided that one by 50. That gives me 5.6 people. So that equals approximately 26 people in your virtual golf. There is 5 box seats. That's 10 seats. I just used their numbers. So it's 10 seats per box seat. That's another 50 people. Then we have the second floor driving range, which is, again, it's 200 by 20, which is 4,000 square feet, divided by 50. That's another 80 people. You also have an outdoor patio, which is 1,913 square feet. Figured on a patio, there's going to be either stand-up tables or chairs, so I divided that. That could change, but I divided that by 15. If it's standing room only, the number goes down to 7, which is, again, is code compliant with concentrated use without standing or seating. But I did it with 15. Outdoor patio is 127 people. Okay? So for a total of 3,979 people in this building. Okay? Now, what I also did, I figured he's going to have ice hockey games. So what I did is I took this rink and I Googled how many people are on an ice hockey team, because I didn't really know. It's approximately 20 people, and I didn't even include the managers and coaches. So I took the 20 per team, which is 4 teams. That's 80 people, and it brought his capacity down to 3,379 people. That's if he's having 2 hockey games with everything else. I cannot reduce a capacity per fire code. I can only increase it. If he wants to decrease it, he has to go to the board. Okay? And what that does is that also stirs the main entrance, because the main entrance has to take half the capacity of this building, because it's a place of assembly, and that is written in the fire code. So currently, his front entrance is only 4 sets of doors, or excuse me, 2 sets of double doors. If I'm betting at 36 inches of door, a 36-inch door could take out 180 people. 180 times 4 is 720 people. His front door has to take half the capacity of his building, and that is per code. So it could potentially change that also. I am willing to work with him, but unfortunately, I didn't get to bring this up at the TRC because we had an emergency.
Yep.
Sorry I ran quick, but I just wanted to get this
That's
through.
important to get out there for the record. Counselor?
Mr. Chairman, with respect to the fire marshal, at this stage of review, we are not before him with fully engineered plans, nor are we in front of the building official with fully engineered plans that have, I'm not suggesting these are not compliant with code, but certainly at that stage they have to be. Without getting into all of the detail that was just discussed, I can tell you, looking at the floor plans, that we didn't underestimate capacity of the building by half and suggest that only 1,000 people would be there, when in fact we would have over 2,000 paying spectators. That would be a big miss in the building plan, in the business plan. What I think actually happened there is that the label saying 1,000 persons appears on the first floor plan. That is the first level of bleachers that rise up to the second level. So while the marshal demonstrated that the dimension line would suggest that these are actually different bleachers, they are just a different part of one set, the capacity of which is only 1,000. So it's not that we have two levels of 2,000 people like you're at Fenway Park with a mezzanine hanging over your head. That's not the design. But again, we would get into that at the preliminary plan stage. And the other thing I would suggest is we would have to look at the code and see the best way to analyze a pickleball court. But suggesting it's the same as an exercise room with equipment, that certainly presents a different level of danger to occupants who are trying to exit quickly, as opposed to a pickleball court. And suggesting, therefore, that we have 37 people playing on each pickleball court. It's just not realistic. That's not how this project, that's not how this would function.
I do agree with him with the pickleball, and I didn't make that comment. But in regards to if those bleachers go all the way up, I still counted the rows. There's still 18 inches per person. If you add it all up, it's still the same. It might be a little different, and I said that at the beginning, but I'm not here to dispute it, but I'm just giving this up.
So what I think it's prudent that the fire marshal has been able to articulate his initial set of concerns. That is the basis for much more detailed discussion as the engineering plans and architecture plans develop with more fidelity. You know where the fire marshal stands. That's the starting point. All right. Any other public comment?
Susan Anderson, Main Road. I want to go back to what Mr. Hardy said about the rock piles and the stone mounds. I've walked this 2 or 3 times, but when it still was part of the town. There are stone walls in there that are phenomenal. And if you walk with the GIS and you look at these stone walls, it matches the lot lines of the GIS. And the Maverick properties that, Maverick properties that go that way, it's a very narrow strip. There's like a cart path through that, and it goes like forever. It's phenomenal. But these rock piles, this morning, I got an email from the blogger who is an archaeologist. His name is Dr. Peter Waxman, and the blog is rockpiles.blogspot.com, and he did this walk in 2022. And what he said this morning in his email, which I believe I sent to some of you, and hopefully Ed would give it to all of you. He says, I documented 2 groups of mounds, some large ones next to an old road and some smaller ones on a knoll with surrounding stone walls. The smaller ones are very likely Native American, but I am less certain about the large ones. My guess is that these are related to some family that had Native American roots. In any case, this is an unusual location in Tiverton. So his recommendation is that he would contact the Narragansett Tribal Historic Preservation Office and remind them of their legal resolution, which requires them to step up and help protect these sites. So instead of getting someone that is not, unfortunately, I asked our state archaeologist at Rhode Island Historic Preservation and Advisory and Heritage Commission to come down and look at these, and she refused because she says, I'm not familiar with Native Americans. Mm-hmm. So the previous archaeologist was Paul Robinson, and he was phenomenal in knowing what was Native and what wasn't. Maybe somebody in the public archaeology lab does, but in any event, it should, I would strongly urge that the Narragansett tribe be contacted to just make sure that these are not Native American or that they are Native American. Mm-hmm. I have never seen anything like this before in my life. They're like 10 feet wide by like 25, 30 feet long, and they're all rocks. They're about as high as this sometimes, and they're huge. And they're in the woods. There's one that's right next to Like if this is a stone wall, there's one like right here, and that end of that mound is straight vertical. So you know they're all man-made, obviously. But I've never seen anything like that a farmer would do. I've tried to research the deeds in this property through the vault at the town hall to try to figure out who owned all this property before. I came up with one name, but he's buried in the cemetery, Stephen, I think it's Cook, Stephen Cook. He's buried in the cemetery that's between the DPW and the police station, and that's the closest I could come to where this property is in that area, because he owned a heck of a lot of land. But I'm still having problems with the deeds.
Okay.
But
Thank
just
you.
wanted to say that this was an archaeologist that walked this, that made this blog, that said all this. So that's my concern.
I know we captured that comment from Stu earlier. I would just ask that we, amend that comment to make sure that we have the proper archaeological and/or cultural, indigenous cultural authorities sort of weighing in on this factor. Any other public comment?
Name again is Peter Monis, 83 Captain Circle. Just the premise of you can't plan and avoid. You wouldn't build a house without a roof, or you wouldn't put a house on a piece of land without access to it. So my point is that there's got to be more than just this property here. It's the traffic flow coming into this park. And that's basically Fish Road and Route 24. I had a quick discussion with one of the applicants, the owner, and we're in agreement that 24 and Fish Road, there is a problem, and he can comment on it later, and I hope we can get him to make a comment about his efforts to get the DOT to get a traffic light in that area. But this is a dangerous area, basically now, and you're putting a lot of people into this area for recreation, and this is going to be basically almost like a 24-hour venue where people can come, anytime, and there's going to be problems and danger and accidents and deaths, maybe, hopefully not. But we got to, if this gets approved by this board and the developer must push the DOT to get these improvements done on the road for safety and welfare of the regular citizens and those from out of town, not familiar with the roads, trying to cross over from 24 over Fish Road into that area. And basically he mentioned, the owner, that coming from the south, people on Fish Road trying to get on 24, get their turn signals on, and they're making turns on 24, not into the property, and there's a disaster ready to happen. So I'd like to get this on the record that this has got to be a priority to improve this area. And he can, or the developer, or the lawyer, or whatever, can make some statements on that. Thank you.
Before, come on up. So just for the record, those were my comments at the conceptual plan, right? We're talking, I use this often to see all of these parking spots. Like, that is a single entrance point. Like, I am really concerned about cars queuing from all directions without roadway infrastructure improvement. Like, with lights, we can manage it. Without lights, that's a free-for-all. Just like, that's a disaster waiting to happen. So, Counselor.
No, Mr. Chairman, so we have been in discussions already with DOT through the State Traffic Commission, both through the town as well as through the Commerce Corporation, which has the ability to expedite these types of reviews before the State Traffic Commission. It's our position, and we have requested that a traffic light be installed at that intersection. Quite frankly, it would help with the existing traffic, let alone, as you indicated, let alone the future traffic. So we concur that there's a need there. We wouldn't say that, what is there now is the best for this future development. So we've already started that process because it can run in tandem, it can run separate from this process.
Sure. I don't know if Ed or Ashley or maybe even Todd, like, do we have any semblance of whether or not the town's been pulled into any of those discussions to weigh in from a sort of local municipality public safety perspective?
I'm not, if we have, I have not been part of them,
Okay.
and I'm not aware of it.
I'm sorry, I believe the town administrator had forwarded a letter to the State Traffic Commission.
Oh, okay. That's great.
Requesting that on our behalf. We
Okay.
had asked him to do that.
And do you know when about that letter dropped?
I will get that date for you and also get an update from the State Traffic
Yeah,
Commission.
I would very much like, perhaps you can follow up with staff here from a correspondence. I agree. Like, I think it behooves us as a community to work with the state and advocate on our own local behalf to get the state to do something on that, just in the name of public safety and traffic control, because, I mean, the last thing Mr. Long wants is just a lot of ticked off people, because it's so aggravating getting in and out of there, right? So to the extent that we can get an update and then work with the town administrator or others in the town to advocate for this, then, happy to do so.
I'm certainly not going to speak for the police department, but I would assume that they would be in support of a proposal since they could get in and out of their station a little more easily. So
Yeah, I would imagine so, but we'll let the police department weigh in there.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank
Any other public comment here? Ma'am? Yeah.
Hi, Amanda. I have an address in Tiverton. So I just had a quick insight about the traffic situation.
So just for
Is
the
there an
public
issue?
record, using a first name and a random no address really doesn't bode.
137 Main Road in Tiverton. Thank you
There
so
we go.
much.
Thank you.
So a traffic light doesn't make any sense at that intersection. For one, you have, if you're going south on Fish Road, you're not going to be able to see the traffic light with the, overpass. You also have cars that come off the highway there to the right. So to put the traffic light there, it's going to cause congestion coming off the off ramp. And there's the entrance to the police station, whatever, and then you have the highway there. So you have two entrances there. So it doesn't make sense to put it's not logical.
So
that's all.
For the record, no one here is a traffic engineer.
I know,
think
I'm
we're
just-
using I think we're using a traffic light as
You
proxy.
are adorable. Thank you so much. But no,
Okay.
my thought process is that you're talking about putting a traffic.
So we're using
And I'm just putting in my 2 cents. That's all.
And
I
we
appreciate you. Thank you
your-
so much.
Okay, we appreciate your 2 cents. What I am saying is that we're, in a layperson term, using traffic light as proxy for the need for the state to do something from a traffic engineering perspective to improve controlled traffic flow and public safety. Whatever the DOT, RIDOT wants to do, that's them. That's their specialty, and we're going to let them. I'm not disagreeing with you, ma'am. I'm just, in the absence of getting into details about like traffic flow and all of that, we're just again saying traffic light.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Ma'am.
Amanda, you've done this before, so come on up. You used to sit up here with us, so come on.
So I'm just saying, in general, you're putting a ton of people in a location that's an industrial park with one exit. So I'm just saying it doesn't seem feasible. It seems like a hazard right now. So there's got to be something more logical. That's all.
I don't disagree with you. Again, at the concept plan review, when we had this, that
Well-
was my first comment about this whole thing. I
Sure.
completely concur with your sentiment
Okay.
that this has to be better from a traffic flow
Yeah,
perspective. And so we're
absolutely.
going to work with the town and the state to figure out the best engineering solution to tackle this that benefits the town.
I'm just saying public safety is so important in that area.
We've used public safety like 18 times in the last 3 minutes here. So
Okay.
your point is well heard. Thank you. Mr. Comito.
Is there any other points I should make on anything, or you're all set with talking to me?
Are you done?
Are you?
I am.
Okay, all right,
you.
thank you so much.
Thank you. Craig Comito, Tiverton Town Council, and I preside at 204 Saxony Avenue. Just talking about the traffic and the traffic light, there was a period where we had a traffic light there for a very long time. It was during, I believe, the bridge construction. Been on the fire department, obviously a lot of you know, 34 years, 30 some plus years. Never had a major accident in that area. And the traffic light, I believe at the time of construction, worked out very well for letting people on and off. Again, not a traffic expert, but it's definitely something that I think everybody could look into, and I don't think it's as negative as it seems to be. So, thank you.
Any other public comment? Any other public comment? Any other public comment? All right, we're going to close the public hearing. Okay, so procedurally, again here, just to sort of recoup and talk to everyone, I'm going to get my notes here. We cannot move forward with approving this master plan application until such time that our comprehensive community plan is updated and that accepted by the town council, and that has to go through public hearing. And then once that is in place, we have to move to add these as uses in the use table, and that also has a process. Todd, do you want to elaborate?
Yeah. So the procedure is, because this use needs to be identified in the zoning ordinance, and because it is not otherwise recognized for this area in the comprehensive community plan, that too needs to be updated. But you can do all three things concurrently. That is, make a recommendation to the town council to amend the comprehensive community plan, but you can only do that after having a public hearing, which has to be advertised. Concurrently, you can recommend a zoning ordinance change to recognize this use with whatever criteria you may want. And finally, also concurrently, you could grant a conditional master plan approval. Okay? You can't do any of that tonight because you cannot hold a public hearing this evening on the comprehensive community plan. Mm-hmm. And it has to be the order: comprehensive community plan, zoning ordinance, master plan approval. Mm-hmm. That's why I think you need to continue the hearing until at least August. There's sufficient time to advertise for that.
Do we want to review and discuss the proposed changes to the comprehensive community plan so we can make a positive recommendation to the town council so that they can?
I believe it would be helpful to begin that conversation this evening, so when we come back in August, it should be expedited. Mm-hmm. But that's the board's call as well. If you don't want to talk about it tonight, we can wait.
But if we discuss these changes whoa,
sorry,
you're being attacked.
Yes.
By a fly. If we discuss these changes and make a positive recommendation to the town council, then they can.
But you can't do that tonight.
We cannot do that tonight.
No, because you have to do the comprehensive plan first, which requires a public hearing, which you cannot have until at least August.
Okay. So procedurally, these proposed changes are going to go to the town council. We don't have to discuss these, or do we?
You have to discuss them in August.
In August. Okay. Thank you. It's been a long day.
Yes.
So, okay. So,
if you want to discuss them, I will go down there and I can put it up on the wall.
What is the pleasure of the board here?
Let's do this in August.
Stu is recommending that we continue this until August to allow enough time for public hearings, related advertising, so on and so forth. Okay. Any other? Okay, so if that is the case, then I would put forth, I'd seek a a motion to continue the public hearing on this master plan application to our August meeting, which is happening on August 5th, 2025.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion around continuing the public hearing until our August meeting?
I have a question. Should we have a TRC on this?
We had discussed, and Ashley, keep me honest, that it is most beneficial to have a TRC in conjunction with preliminary plan when we have way more fidelity from an engineering and architectural plan perspective, which gives the engineers and other stakeholders more things that are concrete to react to.
I agree. I think the TRCs are very, very important because we get the department heads there and we get Ashley's expertise. I mean, I wish that other people from the board, they could sit in the audience and listen because we don't get that input at our council meetings, at our
It's a bugger that the TRC happens during business hours, and some of us are not even in town for that.
It is recorded. so
It
you
is
can
recorded,
always go
and
back and watch
I
the video,
could-
and that was intentional, so that for those that can't attend, because it is during the day, it is a recorded meeting, and you can go watch the video so that you can get up to speed. I would agree that at this point in time, we did conduct a TRC. Unfortunately, the fire marshal and the building official did have to leave. I think generally, we're hearing some of those concerns, now. So going back and doing a master plan TRC, I don't know that we'd get a whole lot out of that. I think the applicant is aware that they need to work with the building official and the fire marshal on the occupancy issue. So I would say that because the applicant has agreed to do a preliminary plan TRC, we'll get more benefit out of doing it then. So despite the fact that the master plan one was kind of cut short on this application, if we do it at preliminary, I think we'll get more.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on the motion at hand? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of continuing the public hearing on the master plan application to our August 5th, 2025 meeting? That's unanimous. All right, great, thank you. So we then need to take a vote to schedule a public hearing on the proposed amendments to the comprehensive community plan at our August 5th, 2025 meeting and authorize that advertising. So
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second there. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of scheduling a public hearing on the proposed amendments to the comprehensive community plan at our August 5th meeting and to authorize advertising? All those in favor? All right, unanimous. Our third and final vote related to this is to, I'll make a motion to hold a public meeting on the zoning ordinance amendments.
Second.
Any discussion on this one?
That's specifically for the commercial athletic recreation facility.
Thank you. Any comments? Discussion? All right, seeing none. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Okay.
I'm going to say one thing. Mr. Riley, I understand I provided you with a copy of the proposed ordinance amendment. You have some concerns. I would ask that you kindly forward your concerns to Mr. Rotella to distribute to the board with sufficient time before that meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Rosemary?
If you say so. You're running the show.
All right, great. Thank you to Mr. Long and team. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, have a good night. All right, we're going to move, so we're tracking to about 10 of 9 here, so we're going to move into our next series of agenda topics here. So item number 3, 3A, consider removing uses from the prohibited use list in zoning ordinance Article 4, Section 15, and/or to otherwise allow the uses in town. Number 1, brewery. Number 2, campground. Number 3, distilleries. Number 4, golf course or golf club. Number 5, tent or recreational vehicle camp. And number 6, recycling center. The action is discussion and possible vote on a recommendation to town council. Any of the items, just a housekeeping note, any of the items here in agenda item 3 are planning board open public meetings, which for those who are keeping track means that, here we go, that this is a public meeting held pursuant to the open meeting laws, Rhode Island General Laws 4246-1. This is not a public hearing. This does not require general or specific notice beyond that required to comply with the open meeting laws. The planning board is not required to accept public comment. So, all right. So I'll start out here and then certainly want to open it up to the board. So we have 6 items that are being requested to move from our prohibited use list and get that basically accepted uses, whether permitted by right or special use. I would just say that 3 of these, the brewery, the distilleries, and the golf course and golf club, I'm not comfortable having that discussion about taking it off the prohibited use list until we have the results of the forthcoming hydrology study that is underway. My understanding is that we still don't have an ETA on when that is being delivered, but I think that information about sort of the state of water in the town would be extremely helpful for discussion and debate on uses that are water heavy and certainly water dependent. So my recommendation would be to focus the discussion this evening on campground, tent or RV camp, and recycling center.
I agree with that.
Feel.
I would actually loop campground and tent and recreational vehicle into the water pole as well. Those also require a decent amount of water. So I would also say it doesn't make sense to consider those until we have our water data.
How do others feel here?
Couldn't hear.
I will translate. So VA is stating that she feels that campground and tent or RV camp are also water-intensive uses and would recommend holding on that until we have the results of the hydrology study. So, and then my question is, what do others feel about that?
So that was certainly the justification for putting those 2 camp-related uses on the prohibited list. And I remember having that, listening to that discussion in the zoning revision committee before it even even before it came before the planning board, and then the planning board supported that. I don't feel that strongly about it one way or the other, because I don't think those 2 camping-related uses are as water intensive as the other uses, Bill, that you mentioned a minute ago. But I certainly see VA's concern, and I just wanted to add a little bit of that background.
Okay.
I would agree with VA as well as Bill's. They're very water intensive.
Okay. And just to re-clarify, we don't have an ETA on the hydraulic study, do we?
I have not heard anything recently. I did corner someone at another public meeting who works with Stonebridge and is helping Stonebridge and asked about this and asked for an update. He did reach out to PAR, who is the firm that Stonebridge approved to have their hydraulic model done. It's the same company that does the North Tiverton model. He did reach out and request a meeting, and I subsequently, just yesterday, followed up and said, can we please have this meeting? So I'm actively trying to get an update from PAR as to when their hydraulic model would be ready. I also wanted to be able to talk with them while they're in process, because we want to ensure that whatever they're developing is coordinated with the North Tiverton model, so that we are then able to plug those two things in together to create a hydraulic model for the entire system. But at this point, I don't have any information from Stonebridge or PAR as to where they are in this process, but I am trying.
Okay. I know you are. Is there any additional sort of escalation or pressure that we can put on those entities to deliver this in a more expedited fashion? Not to shortchange it, but there's a lot of things riding on this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm relatively low on the totem pole here, so anyone above me, reaching out, I think would show that there is an interest on the town side, and that it's to everyone's benefit to get this done so that we have this information.
Okay.
Ashley, I have a quick question for you. Doesn't the town of Tiverton have a contract with Weston and Sampson to actually have one of the hydrologists who works for Weston and Sampson also be looking at Stonebridge Water Authority? Isn't there somebody in your organization, a hydrologist in your organization, who is actually working for the town of Tiverton?
No. I mean, I know that the planning board had approved specifically somebody in Weston and Sampson who is a hydrologist. When you have specific hydrology related questions or you want peer review for hydrology issues, but we haven't ever had a conversation of that person actually interacting with Stonebridge on a general level. The conversation was always that it was project specific, and so that person is on standby and ready to help you when you have a hydrological question related to an application, but it wasn't for this purpose. We are contracted through the grant to take the North Tiverton hydraulic model and the Stonebridge hydraulic model, bring those two models together to create an entire system model, but we've been waiting for the Stonebridge piece.
That's what you were thinking of, Stu, that last part.
Yes, that last part.
Okay. Councilor Comito.
So, might be able to shed a little bit of light on that. We recently had, being a liaison to the two water boards, we recently had a meeting with the two water boards. Come to find out, there was a little bit of delay with Stonebridge Water. Emails going back and forth and not connecting, so they were a little bit late getting all their information to PA. My understanding is that PA has everything now, and they are working on this model. I'm told within a month to 2 months maybe, but I'm not 100% sure on a drop dead date.
Okay.
It would be really good to be able to connect Weston and Sampson with PAR before they're done, so that we can just have the conversation. It would be, I don't anticipate this happening, but it would be a bit of a tragedy if whatever is produced somehow doesn't blend with North, and then we have additional problems.
I don't know what you mean by blend.
Well, because we're taking the North Tiverton hydrologic model, and the larger project is to take these two hydrologic models and bring them together.
I believe that's what PAR is doing, is taking both studies and bringing them together.
No,
from my
Weston and
understanding.
Sampson is contracted to take the two hydrologic models and create a single hydrologic model. PAR already
With the
created
information
North
from PAR from
Tiverton.
North Tiverton and the information from PAR from Stonebridge is going together through, I don't know.
But we
who.
don't
No-
have a hydrologic model from Stonebridge.
That's what we're waiting on PAR for.
Exactly.
PAR is supposed to be
Exactly. I
creating
just
that.
said that there was a delay in getting the information from Stonebridge. PAR
Right.
has all the information, I believe, from Stonebridge, and they are working on that model to get it together.
Right, but my point is that we're out here waiting, and it would be beneficial to everybody for us to connect with PAR while they're in process, so that we can have the conversation about these two things being aligned at the end of this process.
So you want to make sure the output from PAR
Yes.
is going to give you what you need in order for Weston and Sampson
I-
to complete your
Yes, and I don't have
model.
any expectation that it's not going to, but setting up a 30-minute meeting just to make sure that those things are going to come together at the end of the day seems to be the prudent
Sure.
thing to do, as opposed to just sitting and waiting for it to show up and hoping that it does.
Is this something that we can ask the town administrator
Yeah,
to liaison on our behalf?
I mean,
here?
I can talk to the town administrator on it, but I still think you need the independent from PAR from both places before.
Yeah, we're saying the same thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're saying
All
the
right.
same thing.
All right.
What Ashley is advocating for is that before PAR puts a bow on their final thing, Weston and Sampson has an opportunity to have a quick conversation with them to make sure that the final output is going to contain everything they need in order to do their full 360.
Yes.
On the entire water system.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
That's all I'm looking for, is just a
Yeah,
quick
right,
touch
right. I
point
mean-
before we finish.
So, I mean, the water in town is, I'm stuck on this water thing in town on the issue, and frankly speaking, I really don't think we have a water issue in town. It's just a matter of getting all this information, and as more so as a delivery problem, right? So, in the planning and all this stuff that's taking place on new developments, if we have all this model and all this stuff to come together, like Ashley's talking about, that could help us maybe improve
We'll have
our
facts.
and
We'll have
have the
facts in which to
facts,
react
but
to.
we can improve our infrastructure.
Yeah.
Hopefully at the cost of somebody else if they really want to do development, and especially with the commercial stuff that we need. So, I hope that helps a little.
Yeah, no, it does. I think, to the extent, I'm not clear on which town official needs to put the call into PAR Engineering to make sure that there's a 30-minute pre-delivery meeting that's coordinated with Weston and Sampson. Is that?
May I make a recommendation?
Yes, please.
That because the council asked you to look at these uses,
Yep.
that you respond to them saying, we want to.
Okay.
We're waiting for the study. And we would ask that you connect PAR with Westman and Sampson.
Yep.
Our esteemed council members, do you think that would be of any assistance? And we would address it to both the council and the administrator, of course. It keeps you informed as to what we're doing and what we need.
I mean, if that's how you want to proceed to bring it back to the council, again, this is my personal feelings, I'm not speaking for the council. Again, I don't think we have a major water issue in Tiverton from what I'm being told on both sides here. So things like, most of those uses that I put back on the table came from me. And if we're looking to develop waterfront, things like a brewery on a waterfront would be a great thing if we can make it work with the study coming back, right? I get it. But if that's the way you want to proceed and bring it back and hold off to I'm agreeable to that. And I think most of the council will agree, once we have that hydraulic study, we can make better decisions.
Yeah, I totally agree. We just have the data in hand, like we're all operating, we're all singing from the same hymnal, if you will.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm happy to draft a letter to the council and the town administrator asking, explaining sort of our situation and asking them to advocate directly with PAR to facilitate a preliminary meeting between PAR and Weston and Sampson.
Having the information to make a better decision is so
Absolutely.
important, so, yes.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, are you ready for a motion to either approve or disapprove of these prohibited uses?
I think
either to stay on or be removed from the a prohibited list?
Yeah, so Stu, I think we need the results of the hydrology study in order to have the appropriate data and information to discuss 5 of these 6. So I would, I don't know if we need a motion to sort of table this discussion until said time that we have that hydrology study. I don't think we need a motion on that.
I think your motion should be to authorize you, on behalf of the planning board, to send a letter or a memo to the council and administrator advising that you've considered these uses, you need more data, and you ask that it coordinate or how did I write it?
Yeah.
Connect PAR with Weston and Sampson.
Yep.
I would make that motion.
Okay. So before we go there, though, before I ask for a second, what about the recycling? Do we want to talk about the recycling?
I can probably address that for you. I don't think you need to. I think because you forwarded a recommendation on the construction and demolition use,
Yep.
I think that's where that was going. You've also addressed municipal recycling center, and otherwise recycling centers are prohibited.
So those specific use cases that you just called out were covered for. Other than that, it's a prohibited use.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So, yep, I got you. I got you. So we have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Second, sorry.
Okay.
Ashley.
So the motion is to authorize me to communicate with town council, town administrator, explaining our position around the need for the hydraulic study and asking them to facilitate a meeting between PAR and Weston and Sampson.
Yes.
And I think I can weave in something about the recycling center and how we feel like that's covered. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. We're open for discussion. Ma'am, do you want to? I just ask that you try to keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Hello, Karen Ephraim, 74 North Christopher Avenue. So I'm opposed to the recycling center. I know that you all understand I was also opposed to the construction and demolition debris processing center. Many of those same concerns apply to this case. And additionally, as I've continued my research, there is a huge issue when it comes to public health and safety with any such type facilities like a recycling center. The lithium-ion batteries, along with other types of batteries, are leading causes in fires that occur in waste management and recycling operations. Despite mitigation strategies, devastating fires are still a reality. Improperly disposed of lithium-ion batteries run the risk when these facilities catch fire to disperse toxic chemicals into the environment. This comes through the fire suppression water that carries heavy metals and PFAS into runoff, which then overwhelms stormwater systems and infiltrates groundwater aquifers. Given this, I think it is the worst decision to allow these such facilities to be located in town and in the PDP, especially given the close proximity to Stafford Pond. The 3 schools, especially Ranger Elementary and my neighborhood, they're constantly, news article after news article, I came across of communities being devastated by such fires. The residents don't need to be put through such atrocities. They really don't. This is not an appropriate consideration, and I really do hope that you take what I say seriously. I would also be very happy to provide you all with, it's about an 80-page document that I came across from the United States EPA. It's referenced as an analysis of lithium-ion battery fires in waste management and recycling. It's very informative, and it supports my position that this would not be an appropriate consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. I would just say a couple of things in response. Feel free to drop that email to Ed Rotella with a link to that document, and that'll get distributed. Just to be clear, though, we're not talking about, what we were talking about here is removing from our prohibited uses list this general category of recycling center. What we have just articulated, we're not talking about any specific in-flight proposals or applications like that. We have certain instances of recycling-related uses captured in an actively defining sort of the performance criteria around all of that, which I know from our last meeting, which you were at, we went through extensively on. What we're saying is that aside from those very specific uses with that very specific performance criteria, which we're not talking about because we're not going to just take recycling center off the prohibited use list. Like, it would need to be very specific and very controlled. Todd, do you have anything to add there?
Recycling center remains on the prohibited list unless it's a municipal recycling center, which is in the district use table, limited zones that it's permitted in, and then there's the recommendation on the construction and demolition recycling center. That's it.
Yep.
So it is what you want.
Yeah, I just think that it's a horrible idea to remove it off any prohibited list. It should remain prohibited. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is there any more discussion before we move to approve the motion on the table, which again is to have me communicate with the town accordingly here? All right, seeing none, all those in favor? Oh, Dick.
Yeah, we really spent a lot of time discussing these. I mean, they weren't capricious or just arbitrary. We actually looked and talked about why the problems with recycling and you know, you see the Providence up there by Indian Point, that scrap thing catches on fire about every time you turn around. And people being what they are, a lot of times just won't take the time to separate. And so they contaminate the thing, as well as we were very concerned about the number of truckloads a day adding to all of this other activity in and out of the industrial park being a problem. And so I personally would vote that it remain on the prohibited item list. I think we had good reasons for it.
And that's basically what we've captured thus far.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we're going to take a vote again to authorize me to communicate with the town. Oh, Cheryl, sorry. Can't see past Dick here.
I just wanted to make one comment. On the rezoning revision committee, we took a long, hard look at anything that was currently on the prohibited list, and we had a vice chair, and now we have a new chairperson. We go through the maps in detail, and we take a look at, do we want to remove anything from the list? We do a lot of research on it first. So before we come up with anything that we just want to remove from the list, I think it should be bumped back in some cases to the homework that we've already done on the subcommittee, as well as this group for their recommendation. Because we may have already spent hours on this issue, and it doesn't always come up in a brief meeting.
That's a great point, and I think we would welcome sort of proactively, you know, any and all consolidated feedback into context from that group. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor? Do we remember what we're voting on here? I know we're starting to drag here, guys. Let's. I'd share my Diet Coke, but that would be not what we want here. So, again, the motion on the table is to authorize me to communicate back to the town council and the town administrator, articulating our position regarding removal of these the five current prohibited uses, that being brewery, campground, distillery, golf course or golf club, and tent or RV camp, We're going to wait to make a decision on that until we get the results of the forthcoming hydrology study. We will also ask the town council and town administrator to advocate with PAR to make sure that a meeting with Weston and Sampson happens before PAR delivers their final hydrology study for Stonebridge, to make sure that what we're getting is going to meet the needs of Weston and Sampson. And I will also incorporate into that communication our position on removing recycling facility based on the commentary that Todd shared. That is the motion on the table. It has been seconded. We have discussed. All those in favor? Oh. 1, 2, 3. Against. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in favor, 1 against.
What are you, Janice? I'm sorry. Send it to the council. Okay.
Okay. Are we good? Okay. I want to do a time check. We got 9:13 here. So we have a number of other things that we're trying to get to here that are important. So items 3B and 3C, these are, and 3D, these are coming to us from the town council for us to reconsider. I don't know if we're going to be able to get through B, C, D, and E and still be able to get to some of our other items here. And in particular, I am interested in sort of what's coming out of the State House here. We have a little bit more time before our 6-month clock is up with the town council here. Can we try to chip away at maybe 1 or 2 of these and then move on? Or again, I'm trying to strike a balance between continuing things to August and then our ability to actually chip away at our to-do list here, guys. So,
Are there people here for specific things?
I'm gonna regret doing this. We've continued some of this zoning stuff repeatedly.
Yeah.
And I know that it is on your list of like, we need to get through this stuff, and I agree with you. We kick these to August, we just continued a pretty large application. We already have other applications. So again, I'm gonna regret doing this, but I don't think we're gonna get through these on regular meeting agendas.
so we need a special meeting. Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree. I mean, we've done it before. We are able to have a focused discussion for a couple of hours and really hammer through all of this stuff.
It ties back to your later.
And the other part of it too is that these get kicked to the end of the agenda and they don't get the attention they deserve, because at 9 o'clock, we are not all thinking clearly. We are not giving these our best effort. And I just, that would be my recommendation, is that these end up on a special meeting where the focus is to just go through these pieces of zoning that have been hanging here waiting.
I'm totally fine with that. What I would, how
I
do
agree
others
with that,
feel
too.
here? Stu, you're in favor?
Yep.
How do others feel about a potential special meeting so that we can dig in on this stuff?
Yes.
What's that?
Todd just pointed out that in the memo that I gave you related to
Pros
my
and
kind of
cons.
summary of like pros and cons and how to move all of this forward, that the original approach to all of this zoning work was to try to draw clear lines around sections and package them, and
Yeah.
that is a difficult thing to do, and sometimes the lines draw themselves because you want to draw a line in a place where there's not going to be, there's almost never not carryover to some other section, because zoning is incredibly, linked in its sections. But we try to draw the lines in a way that like, okay, we can stop here pretty cleanly, and then we can move to a new section. And so that has been kind of guiding some of this process. And I would say we've done large chunks. We've done the use table. We've done, pretty substantial sections. And I gave you guys a summary of where we are, what we've looked at, what we haven't looked at, what is partially drafted, not drafted, and kind of where things sit. I'm I'm personally at the point where it's becoming very difficult to manage these sections as they get revised because of that linking of section to section. It does become difficult to make sure that you're actually amending the right language because things have been done piecemeal. We're also dealing with a zoning project that was supposed to look at the entire zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations, in addition to also getting thrown a bunch of legislative changes that were mandated. And so it's been a lot. I think we're at the point where it probably makes more sense, and this kind of speaks to that idea that we take a meeting to just sit with these things and go through them strategically, that we work through the outline that I gave you guys and we just keep crossing things off and we just create a package. And if that means that that package goes to the council as a large package, but we explain why and we prep them for it, and we commit to the fact that it's going to take a series of a public hearing to get through all of it, I just think we're at the point where that's probably the cleaner process.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think the other sort of opportunity we have is to work in a new and different way directly with the town council to help them get through all of this. So in the past, we've sort of packaged stuff up. We've tried to give as much context and, guidance as possible, but at the end of the day, we've turned it over. We've attended a meeting like you guys have, right? And have tried to go through that. But maybe there's an opportunity, whenever that mega package of stuff is ready, we hold a workshop with the town council to, before they go into a meeting to take the votes and all of that stuff. It's a workshop to really roll up our sleeves, get through it, make sure that from a planning board perspective, we can provide all of the appropriate and adequate context. There's open dialogue around questions and answers and working through it. And then that really solidifies the level of comfort on behalf of the town council in order to then take it up in quicker fashion at a regular meeting and sort of vote on it, I don't know. It's a both and situation here. It's us working differently and more effectively, and then us working with the town council differently and more effectively for the greater good of everyone.
So Bill's big, beautiful bill.
I do not want to make that reference. But if you want to call it that, go for it.
Okay.
Nope. So in any case, if that is the case, I'd like to work with the council right now to identify a date for this special meeting workshop.
I think we need to do one locally. This board first.
Yes.
Okay.
No. That's exactly what I'm talking about. No. Okay. We're not ready to go to the town council. No, this is us.
You just scared me.
No.
right.
And what I would recommend, what I would recommend for our proposed workshop is that we get through items 3B, C, D, and E here, which is the ask from town council. And then on top of that, we go through line by line what remains coming to us from the Zoning Ordinance Review Committee and start to chip away at the lower hanging fruit, understanding that we need to get through all of it, and the approach will be to package everything in totality and then work with the council to give them one mega package and go through it that way.
I would definitely advocate for doing it that way.
Susan? Yeah.
Do you need a
Zoning
motion?
Revision Committee has, for the past 2 months, worked very hard to get this cat shelter and rescue defined so that we gave it to you because we have a local business that's depending
We're
upon
going to address
this
that, Ms.
change.
Anderson.
So we'd really like to get that done tonight. If you
Okay.
can just look at that one portion tonight.
Okay.
Then pass it to the town council. The others aren't depending upon a local business. This local business is depending upon this being passed.
Okay. All right. I think we can make that.
There's a procedure for that.
Okay.
So we'll address that when we get there.
Okay. So can we take out our calendars and figure out a workshop for Because I don't want to leave this meeting just saying, hey, we'll schedule a meeting at the next meeting. I'd like to get that on the books. And I know it's summer, and I know there's a lot going on, but...
Please understand, Ashley and I need time to draft
Oh, of course.
everything.
Yeah, so
And I have a trial starting on July 28th.
what would you guys recommend then?
We have special meeting dates for August 19th.
So what Ed is saying is that we already have documented in our back pocket a special meeting date for August 19th.
Can we go back one step and just talk a little about logistically? Because to Todd's point, we need time drafting, but I don't want to draft for stuff that you guys have no intention of taking off the list. Like, I'm looking at, like, private stable, commercial stable, riding, like, we didn't get to those. I have no problem drafting criteria for them if we know that they're going to move off the list. I mean, I can tell you private stable, commercial stable and riding academy, and commercial off-street parking, I think were only taken off the list because previously they were a special use permit. I know private stable and commercial riding academy, at the zoning revision committee, there was a discussion about the difference and how many horses you should be able to, and we just, like, we went down a rabbit hole. Somebody was supposed to do some research that had knowledge on that. It didn't happen. So those I'm good with. I think we know that those were coming back. But again, because we're not discussing them tonight and we're not getting any kind of feedback from you, I don't want to start drafting things that you may not agree with doing.
The third group, though, actually family daycare through drive-through service, that was just a recommendation from...
Whether it's a P or an N.
Correct. And we
But if
have criteria for those, I think, already.
Okay. I was just going to
for
say,
other
if it flips from a N to a P, we might want criteria. So we can look at that. If you don't have any, we could come up with a list.
Okay. Perhaps in my zeal,
I'm not saying we
I want
can't do
to
it.
make sure logistically
Yeah.
we're aligned on what our session would cover.
Exactly.
Knowing that we're probably going to need several sessions, right?
Okay.
Many sessions to get through all of this. But in order to help you, help us, what would we want to cover tonight in order to get the ball rolling? Do we want to talk about
Well,
3B?
A general consensus as to whether private stable, commercial off-street parking should be prohibited.
If generally people feel like we should draft standards for those, we'll go draft standards.
Do we need any input from the zoning revision committee on?
I mean, the council sent this to you.
Okay.
And Ashley provided me with the draft of an animal keeping ordinance, I
did.
think it is.
I did.
Which is going to address some of the private stable, commercial stable
Okay.
concerns. Is that fair? Then it's deciding which zones you would want to permit those uses in.
So the animal keeping draft that I sent you would only, I think, would only cover,
Has horses.
yeah, we'll have to look at that, but maybe it would.
Right?
Or with some tweaking, it would.
Right.
So currently, the items in agenda item 3B, private stable, commercial stable or riding academy, gas stations, and commercial off-street parking, I forget. Are they on our prohibited use list right now?
They are not permitted.
They are not permitted, so,
Ends across the district use table.
They're not on
And-
the prohibited use
okay,
list, but
but
they're
they're
ends.
ends.
For
Okay, there's a
reason.
distinction there.
And I'll say all of them except gas stations have been discussed that they will be brought back. So I think, I just wanted to take a few minutes to have the conversation before we run out and schedule the meeting and all that we know what we're doing for this meeting so that Todd and I can be adequately prepared.
Okay.
So I'm good with B.
Okay.
To Todd's point, I think we're good on C. I think we can figure that out.
Yeah, that seems pretty straightforward.
And then on D, I mean, we can you basically have two choices, and I think you just have to make a choice, and we can probably give you some draft standards if you chose to make it a permitted.
I thought we had, don't we have mobile, we have mobile home in the definition table though, right?
Yes,
I
because,
mean,
yes,
I remember
because you
going
have
through that.
mobile home elderly community, which is permitted, but mobile home trailer park is on the prohibited use list, and that's
Okay.
a conflict that we have to reconcile. But I think we can work through that.
Okay, because we actually have those in town.
You have an ordinance specifically for it
Yeah.
that allows
Okay,
it.
so we need to reconcile. I would view that as sort of housekeeping to
Yes.
like clean house here.
Agreed.
Okay. All right, so D would be in scope for,
D, I think we have a different path for that, because
Mm-hmm.
it would have an application associated with it.
okay.
And then F,
E, the cat.
I'm sorry, E, I'm sorry, I was
Yep.
missing a letter there. And then F is, again, I think we can work through that. You have the draft, we just have to agree on the process forward for it. And I
Okay.
gave you a recommendation.
Okay. So I'm gonna, I know it's getting late. As we look at the backup for item E, which is the recommendation to the town council around the sort of cat rescue and cat shelter, this is fairly straightforward. I mean, I could count how many words we got here on hands and feet, right? So can we rock that tonight? Can we?
You can, but it's not procedurally correct.
So, that's right. So can you, just for,
According to the general laws, if there's an application for a use that does not exist, that application has to be submitted, then just like we did with...
yeah,
I'm
and then it
tripping over my
triggers us
words.
to do our work.
Just like the athletic complex,
Yep,
right?
yep.
You make a recommendation to the town council, in this case, just for a zoning ordinance amendment.
Yep.
And a conditional approval of the master plan or development plan review for a stage of review
Okay,
application.
okay.
I think we know what the process is for that, and we can handle that independently.
Okay, great. And does the business owner in question understand that process?
I think she does now. If she does not, she can call me and we can explain.
Okay.
She's
And it's
good.
also our understanding that she has most of the application already ready.
Great.
Right? It's just like a checklist,
So
I
we
think,
will
remains.
work with her on that.
Perfect. Okay.
So, right, we're going to continue B through, motion to continue B
And then
through
set a date.
D,
Yep. As well as
F,
F.
F,
to
and
be discussed at a workshop.
to be discussed at a workshop, and to use that time to go through your approach recommendation document
Yes.
in detail. Okay, so I would entertain a motion that we move to cover agenda items 3B, 3C, 3D, and 3F, as well as discuss Ashley's general approach memo as to how to move forward with all of the remaining changes that need to happen as part of the zoning ordinance to a separate and distinct workshop for a date. I mean, can we just make that motion, accept it, and then set the date?
Yes.
I'll make
Yes.
that motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Who, I'm sorry, that was Cheryl. Okay. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor? Who do we have? Stu, VA, myself. All right, it's unanimous. Okay. We good on
Do
what
we
we're going
wanna
to cover?
set a date tonight?
I would love to set a date.
Yes.
But what's going to guide that date is Ashley and Todd, knowing everything else that they have on their docket, when is a likely, so we heard from Ed that there's already a special meeting slated in our schedule for August 19th, which is, I assume, a Saturday?
No.
Oh, it's a Tuesday.
I can't do an evening meeting on that date.
All right, so that's off
Already
the table.
obligated.
That's off the table.
Sorry.
So,
I think I am too.
It's like feast, like Thursdays or Wednesdays would be better. Mondays and Fridays are tougher.
Okay, so the word from Ed is that Wednesdays and Thursdays are generally better?
I can do that Thursday, the 21st.
Thursday, August 21st is on the table for a reaction. That is a Thursday.
Good for me.
Good for Stu. I don't have anything at the moment. VA is good. Cheryl's good.
Doing this at the day or night?
I can't participate during the day.
Evening is fine. Is it possible to start before, like a little bit earlier? 6?
I'm
5:30?
fine with 5:30.
5:30?
5:30.
That would be great.
I think earlier is great.
Yeah.
5:30 is fine.
Okay. This is a workshop. We are not voting, we are working. So on the table, Thursday, August 21st, 5:30, at a location to be determined. Hopefully our home base at Town Hall. Are we good with that? August 21st, 5:30. Okay. Are we good?
Yep.
We are moving here. Okay, so that moves us to item 3G, update on state legislation related to land use. Do we have any summary updates coming out of Providence?
I know that some things were changed in the Senate, but I don't think they were significant. I will get, we haven't had a debriefing at this time, so I will get you something, but
Okay.
my understanding is a majority of the speaker's housing bills passed.
Okay, so maybe we
as
could
written.
maybe we could try to target August for at least
Yep.
an update on that, because I would want to make sure that there's nothing coming out of the current legislative session that would present us with some timing constraints similar to what we
Oh,
went
there
through.
will be. They're almost always effective immediately, so they give you lots and lots of time.
So
to
I
get
think we
that
should
done.
be mindful of that as we go into our recommitted series of workshops here, because that'll help
Yes.
sort of guide things.
They like to make you immediately in violation of state law without even doing anything.
Okay, so we will get an update on this at our August meeting. Okay, so that moves us to 3H, approval of minutes from our June 3rd, 2025 meeting. Was there anything substantial from a edit perspective?
I gave 2 minutia things.
Okay, so we got some minutia from Rosemary. Janice, you're giving the all clear sign here, so. Dick as well, okay. So I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes of June 3rd, 2025. And we have a motion and a second. I'm going to assume. All right, motion to approve. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Update from the Tiverton Zoning Ordinance Revision Committee. Cheryl is our newly appointed liaison. Do you want to give a quick update there? I know you were alluding to it a little bit before, but anything else you'd like to add? Could you just,
I saw a list, I believe, that Ashley provided.
yeah,
That's
that's part of what we're going to review at the August
Right.
21st workshop.
Deb has a meeting for our next zoning revision committee for July 8th. So we will plan to bring this up then. What we'd like to get to is a point where we're not duplicating efforts and get people to work in between meetings on certain topics that we've been bogged down with, and that they can come back with a recommendation to us so that we can streamline things.
Okay,
So next meeting is the 8th.
okay. Any comments or questions for Cheryl? All right, do we have any update from the North Tiverton Business Park Committee? I thought that was...
I can give you that. We're in the final stages of pulling together the report. That's due to the council for August 1st. So we are working diligently to pull all those pieces together. The committee is reviewing sections of the report as they're drafted, and we're kind of bringing those back into a final version. So we are working hard on that.
Okay, great. Any questions for Ashley on that? All right, seeing none. Rosemary?
Privilege motion. I make adjournment at 9:37.
All right, thank you everyone for sticking with us tonight. Certainly appreciate it. Have a good evening.